3276 Prime Minister Chu and Martial Ant. 2. Before Lu could say anything, Feng Wu threw a small bag into his arms. She might not have many other things, but she did have a lot of essence crystals. Lu immediately felt the strong and pure spiritual essence, and he frowned at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled at him. "Why don't you open it?" Lu did. After opening it, his eyes were almost blinded by the light of the crystals. There were at least hundreds of essence crystals in that bag. Oh God! Lu wasn't a powerful cultivator. He was just a doorman living on his monthly allowance. Occasionally he could get some tips, but they weren't much. Most of the tips were in Dongsang coins, and essence crystals were extremely rare. But now, there was an entire bag of essence crystals. "What do you want? You can't buy me over." Lu stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't have time to waste on him. She only had less than 2 days before the fruit ripened. However, she hadn't even familiarized herself with the most basic information about the great general's residence, to say nothing of sneaking in and doing her job. Feng Wu smiled at Lu. "What's going on with Prime Minister Chu?" Lu wanted to run. However, Feng Wu was much stronger than him, and she dragged him back into his seat. Feng Wu said, "It's quiet here on the second floor, and we're in a corner. There's no one else here. You can run, but those things have to stay." Lu looked at the essence crystals in his arms and hugged it tightly. Just a moment ago, he and Chao had wanted to do something big so that they would have a good life after retirement, but now, there were so many essence crystals in his hands. Lu stared at Feng Wu with hesitation. Feng Wu grabbed the bag from him. "Hey, what are you doing?" Lu stared at the bag with bloodshot eyes. He wouldn't have felt this way if he hadn't opened the bag or held those essence crystals. However, once he felt those crystals, he couldn't bear to part with them. Feng Wu said, "Don't worry. I'm only curious and want to ask you a question. If you answer me, you can have the crystals." Lu asked eagerly, "What do you want to ask?" Feng Wu asked, "Who's Prime Minister Chu?" Lu was surprised by how simple the question was. He immediately said, "He's Chu Tianxiao, the master teacher of the Dongsang Kingdom. I'm not surprised you don't know who he is. He retired a long time ago, and very few people of the younger generation have heard his name. The people of my generation are all familiar with his reputation." Feng Wu took out an essence crystal and put it on the table. 1. However, Lu was happy with having 1 crystal for answering such an easy question. However, Feng Wu smiled at Lu when he tried to take it. "1 moment. I'm not done yet." Lu said, "Ask me then." Feng Wu asked, "What's Prime Minister Chu's cultivation level? What's his status here? Is he nice? Does he have a family?" Lu frowned. "Prime Minister Chu is more powerful than you can imagine. He's probably the most capable cultivator in the kingdom. He almost single-handedly put our current king on the throne." Feng Wu frowned a little. She didn't know Chu Tianxiao had such a long history with the Dongsang Kingdom. 3277 Prime Minister Chu and Martial Ant. 3. Feng Wu put another essence crystal in the middle of the table. "Go on. Have you heard of the story of, you draw your sword first?" Lu asked casually. Feng Wu neither confirmed nor denied it. She only looked at him indifferently. Lu didn't care whether Feng Wu had heard of it or not. He went on, "Actually, Prime Minister Chu isn't from Dongsang. After he came here from the south, he started his journey of, you draw your sword first." Lu's eyes lit up when he said this. When Prime Minister Chu came here, he challenged the top 10 experts of the Dongsang Kingdom with a sword. I don't know what level those 10 experts were, but they were the 10 most powerful people in our kingdom. He always lets his opponent strike first, and he's never the first to draw his sword. That's how confident he is. Prime Minister Chu won all 10 battles and became the strongest person in the Dongsang Kingdom. From then on, he stayed here and helped our king fight his way to the throne. He then became Prime Minister Chu for our king. Feng Wu said, "If he won all 10 battles and no one in the Dongsang Kingdom could beat him, why did he stay here?" Lu scratched his head. How would he know? However, when he saw the essence crystal in front of him, he tried his best to recall it. Suddenly he smacked his forehead. I remember now. I heard someone mention that Prime Minister Chu is looking for someone. Feng Wu was curious. Who's that? Lu said, I don't know. Some people say that he's looking for a colorful bird, and some say he's looking for a teenage girl. Some even say he's looking for an immortal. Anyway, it's just a rumor. It's not important. Tilting her head, Feng Wu thought for a moment. A colorful bird? Could it be Master Phoenix? She asked, what about his family? He definitely doesn't have any. Lu said with certainty. Feng Wu gave him a strange look. Why are you so sure? Lu said, it said Prime Minister Chu hates women. If a woman touches him, he'll cut her in half. So, how can he get married? How can he have a family? Don't even think about it. Feng Wu was speechless. Lu continued. So many girls have fallen in love with him, but Prime Minister Chu won't even look at them. By the way, do you have anything else to ask? Feng Wu asked, what else can you tell me about Prime Minister Chu? Lu eagerly looked at the essence crystal in Feng Wu's hands. He tried to recall but couldn't remember anything else about Prime Minister Chu. In the end, he said helplessly, Prime Minister Chu is too powerful. Very few people know about him. I can't remember anything else. Suddenly, Lu's eyes lit up. I heard that he has a senior brother. Feng Wu asked, who's that? Lu said, I don't know, but there has been a rumor that he has a second senior brother. A second senior brother. Feng Wu remembered her eldest senior brother was the first schoolmaster of Imperial College, and her third senior brother was Chu Tianxiao. Then, who was this second senior brother? Was he also very powerful? However, Lu's level was too low, so the information he could obtain was very limited. Feng Wu asked, when will Prime Minister Chu come to Sun Castle? Lu said, that's hard to say. Some say he'll be here tomorrow, and some say he won't come. He's the top expert in the Dongsang Kingdom. How can we know his whereabouts? Right? That made sense. Feng Wu finally asked Lu what she wanted to ask the most. Have you seen Bu Jingyu? 3278 Entering the Great General's Mansion. Lu said, Mr. Sakiya's disciple? Yes, I have. He's a very nice person. When he meets doormen like us, he'll tip us from time to time. We have a very good impression of him. Feng Wu nodded. Ask him to come here. Lu looked at Feng Wu in surprise. That won't do. Lu wasn't stupid. This girl was asking all sorts of questions. She must be after something. If he tricked Bu Jingyu to come here, and Bu Jingyu walked into a trap, he would be held accountable. Feng Wu didn't say anything else. She just smiled at Lu and put all the essence crystals into her bag. Hey, what are you doing? Lu was anxious. I've answered many questions already. Feng Wu glanced at him. You didn't answer the last few questions well. I'm sorry, but I'll take all the essence crystals back. Lu felt as if a knife was twisting in his heart. Hey, wait. Let me think about it. Maybe there's a way. Feng Wu smiled at him. If you ask Bu Jingyu to come here, the entire bag of essence crystals will be yours. Lu's eyes lit up. You mean it? Feng Wu said, yes. Lu decided to give it his all. If he succeeded, he would be able to live a better life than the others after retirement. It was now or never. Wait here. Lu hurried inside. He was the doorman. Usually, when visitors came to the residence to see someone, the doorman would go inside to report it. Therefore, it wasn't difficult to get Bu Jingyu out. The difficult thing was to live with the consequences. But Lu couldn't resist the temptation of so many essence crystals. He returned before long and looked at Feng Wu anxiously. I heard Bu Jingyu is locked up in his room, memorizing books. Mr. Sakiya won't let him out. Feng Wu was speechless. What kind of book could Bu Jingyu memorize? He was so dumb. Feng Wu smacked her forehead. He should be out soon. I think. Lu looked greedily at the bag of essence crystals in Feng Wu's hand. Feng Wu was speechless. It would be really difficult for Bu Jingyu to come out on his own, so She had to go inside. You know the map of the great general's residence, right? Feng Wu stared at Lu. With the temptation of the essence crystals, Lu had no choice but to give Feng Wu the map. The goods were delivered, and the account was settled. Feng Wu wasn't worried Lu would report it to the higher-ups. In fact, unless the doorman had gone mad, he would never do that. He was about to retire. Making meritorious contributions was the last thing on his mind. He only wanted to earn more money and retire to live a good life. However, Feng Wu still warned him, if you tell anyone about this, even if I die, the second prince won't let you go. Lu was shocked. The girl worked for the second prince. No wonder she was so rich. Lu immediately nodded. I won't. Suddenly, Lu felt dizzy. He immediately fell on the table and lost consciousness. As for Feng Wu, she took off Lu's outer clothes and quickly disguised herself as him. She then walked toward the great general's residence. It was right ahead. The residence occupied an extremely large area, at least 100 acres. The street in front of it was wide enough for 8 carts to travel side by side. The vermilion doors were at least 6 meters tall. There were bronze rings on the door, and 2 huge ferocious-looking stone lions with wide eyes stood by the entrance. 2 doormen were on duty. Guards holding spears were lined up on both sides of the gate. They looked majestic and awe-inspiring. 3279 Hi, we meet again. Feng Wu glanced around and saw someone she saw earlier. It was Chao. Anyone else would definitely be afraid now. But Feng Wu wasn't just anyone. She didn't even bat an eye. Feng Wu walked in without hesitation. Lu, what took you so long? Chao greeted Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked like she was in pain and waved at Chao. I have to go to the toilet. Gosh, go ahead. I'll talk to you later. Seeing how anxious Feng Wu was, Chao didn't dare ask any more questions. He let Feng Wu in right away. The 2 rows of guards looked straight ahead. The real gatekeeper was Chao. After Feng Wu snuck in, she dared to wander around because Lu was a doorman. If anyone asked, she would tell them someone outside wanted to see the master, and she was only on her way to make the report. She wouldn't tell them which master she was going to see, and no one would ask. Feng Wu soon arrived at Bu Jingyu's yard. Bu Jingyu lived a good life here. Because he was with his master, he had his own courtyard in the residence. However, the courtyard was right next to Mr. Sakiya's, so Feng Wu had to be very careful. The main door of the courtyard was tightly locked. Feng Wu was about to climb over the wall. However, Mr. Sakiya used formations and inscriptions to control Bu Jingyu. He actually set up a formation here just to prevent Bu Jingyu from sneaking out. Feng Wu shook her head. The formation could trap Bu Jingyu, but not Feng Wu. In a remote corner, Feng Wu made a small hole in the formation. She patched it up after crawling in. No one saw her do that. The entire courtyard was locked by the formation, so there was no need to close the doors of the courtyard. Feng Wu could hear the sound of someone reading. It was Bu Jingyu's voice. Feng Wu walked from the courtyard to the main room and took a closer look. Indeed, Bu Jingyu was sitting in the room, memorizing his book. This time, he wasn't memorizing an ancient sutra but an inscription book. He was at level 5. Feng Wu sighed. The boy wasn't a fast learner. She quietly walked into the room. Bu Jingyu didn't hear anything. He sat on the wooden stool, swaying his head back and forth while trying to memorize the text. Feng Wu poked him in the back. Bu Jingyu frowned, thinking that it was a fly. He simply ignored the sensation and kept reciting with a bitter expression. Feng Wu poked him again. Bu Jingyu lost his patience and turned around angrily. As he turned around, he shouted, "You annoying fly! Don't you know that I—" Then, Bu Jingyu saw a middle-aged man. He looked as if he had seen a ghost and was astonished. "How did you get in here?" Bu Jingyu jumped to his feet, grabbed a sword from the wall, and pointed it at Feng Wu. "Hey, aren't you the doorman?" When Bu Jingyu wasn't confined to the room by his master, he liked to go out, so he was still a little familiar with the doorman. Crossing her arms, Feng Wu smiled at Bu Jingyu without saying anything. The teenager felt his blood run cold under Feng Wu's gaze. Those eyes were too sharp and domineering. They shouldn't belong to a doorman. Who are you? Bu Jingyu suddenly had a bad feeling. His heart shook. Feng Wu smiled at him. Take a guess. 3280. How can she be so calm? This time, she didn't imitate Lu's voice. Hence, Bu Jingyu immediately recognized her voice. He trembled because of that. You, Bu Jingyu's voice shook. You are Feng Feng. Feng Wu wiped the disguise off her face. A beautiful face appeared in front of Bu Jingyu, shattering all his fantasies. It really was her. Hey, it's been a while. Feng Wu stuffed Lu's robe into her storage space. Who knew if she would ever need it again? Bu Jingyu stared at Feng Wu in shock. You came in just like that? Do you know where we are? Feng Wu said innocently, it's not the first time. Bu Jingyu didn't know what to say. What could he say? Apart from expressing his astonishment, what else could he say? Bu Jingyu paced around the room with his hands behind his back. As he walked, he turned around and glared at Feng Wu. Aren't you afraid my master will find out? Feng Wu asked, did your master notice last time? Bu Jingyu almost choked to death. He couldn't understand it. His master was so smart. How did he get fooled by this cunning girl last time? Bu Jingyu ran up to Feng Wu. Aren't you afraid I'll tell on you? Feng Wu casually picked up a peach and nibbled on it. She then crossed her legs and said casually, go ahead. Bu Jingyu asked, aren't you afraid? Feng Wu grinned at him. Believe it or not, when two Bu Jingyus appear in front of your master, I'll have a way to make him think you're the imposter, and then… Feng Wu made a gesture of cutting off Bu Jingyu's head. Bu Jingyu cried out in frustration. It wasn't that he didn't believe it. It was because he believed every word. She was even smarter and more cunning than his master. Bai Jingyu realized his master might actually fall for her tricks and kill him. At that thought, Bu Jingyu felt a chill run down his spine, and he twitched as he stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu said, why are you fidgeting? I'm not going to tell on you to your master with an anonymous letter. Bu Jingyu asked, anonymous letter? Turn me in? What can you turn me in for? I always abide by the law and never do anything against my conscience. Feng Wu grinned at him. How about betraying your country and stealing the immortal spiritual fruit for the Junwo Empire? Bu Jingyu almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Are you trying to frame me? Bu Jingyu gritted his teeth and glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu nodded earnestly. If you tell your master… Bu Jingyu took a deep breath. He wasn't angry. Even his master couldn't see through her tricks. It was normal that he would lose the argument. However, Bu Jingyu suddenly realized something. So, you really stole the first immortal spiritual fruit. Feng Wu said, what do you mean I stole it? Bu Jingyu was the one who stole the first immortal spiritual fruit. Have you forgotten? Bu Jingyu was shocked. He was so angry. He didn't want to talk. While Bu Jingyu was fuming, Feng Wu was sitting on a recliner, casually eating some fruit. The fruits of the Dongsang kingdom were tender, juicy, and extremely delicious. Bu Jingyu looked up at the sky. He had never seen a spy like her before, sneaking into the kingdom like this. How could she be so calm and composed? How could she? However, he was the one who was anxious. Bu Jingyu took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. He stomped over to Feng Wu and stared down at her. What are you doing here? 3281. Please help me. What did she want? Taking out a handkerchief, Feng Wu slowly wiped each of her fingers clean and grinned at Bu Jingyu. What do you think I'm trying to do? Bu Jingyu said, I don't know. Feng Wu smiled. That's why it's better you don't know. Bu Jingyu asked, why? Feng Wu said, wouldn't it be even more awkward if you did? You'll have to cooperate with me when you find out. Bu Jingyu thought about it and agreed. If he knew what she wanted and still helped her, he would really be betraying his master and the Dongsang kingdom. All right, I won't ask, but You have to promise not to harm the Dongsang kingdom. Feng Wu looked at Bu Jingyu as if he was a retard. If she took advantage of him, it would harm the interests of the Dongsang kingdom. If she didn't want to take advantage of him, why did she come to Sun Castle? Bu Jingyu also realized he had asked an extremely stupid question. He scratched his head and rephrased, "What I mean is you can't harm me. I still have to live in the Dongsang kingdom." Feng Wu said, "I'll do my best." In her plan, Bu Jingyu wouldn't be exposed, but not everything was within her control. Who knew what would happen? Bu Jingyu said, "If you expose me, I will definitely expose you too." Feng Wu smiled. "Sure." Why did she agree so easily? Bu Jingyu looked at Feng Wu in confusion. He couldn't help but wonder if she was up to no good. "When are you leaving?" Bu Jingyu asked. Feng Wu said, "I'll leave as soon as I finish the mission." Bu Jingyu wanted to ask her what her mission was, but then he realized that if he found out, he might. So, he glared at Feng Wu and grabbed a book. "You should leave now." After that, Bu Jingyu went back to memorizing his text. Feng Wu smiled. This kid was quite adorable. While Bu Jingyu worked on the text, Feng Wu paced around the room with her hands behind her back. First of all, she had to familiarize herself with Bu Jingyu's room. She had to know the decor in the room, his clothes, accessories, and so on. While Feng Wu was picking out Bu Jingyu's clothes, she heard footsteps outside. Bu Jingyu's recital suddenly stopped. He rushed in and pointed at Feng Wu. "Did you recite on moral for my master last time?" Feng Wu said, "I did." Bu Jingyu asked, "You even recited level 4 inscriptions for him, didn't you?" Rubbing her chin, Feng Wu said, "I think your master has even told you to recite the level 5 ones." Bu Jingyu was anxious. "Do you know the texts?" Feng Wu looked at him as if he were a retard. "What level do you think I am at? How do you think I got through your master's formation?" Bu Jingyu realized she had a point. Even my eldest senior brother wouldn't be able to get in if he didn't know the method. Bu Jingyu said with certainty. Bu Jingyu's eldest senior brother was Zhu Yi, right? Feng Wu remembered him. "In other words, you can recite level 5 inscriptions, right?" Feng Wu said, "It's a piece of cake." "Do it for me." Bu Jingyu said. "Master is going to test me, but I haven't memorized them yet. I don't know what's going on, but I keep forgetting what I've memorized. Anyway, I can't do it no matter what." Feng Wu feigned hesitation. Bu Jingyu said, "I'm begging you. You can come and go as you please while staying here. I won't interfere with you. If necessary, I'll even help you. As long as you recite the text for me. Is that all right? Xiao Wu, please help me." 3282 Who's that? Feng Wu was speechless. Bu Jingyu would go that far to avoid memorizing texts. Bu Jingyu said, "Hurry up. Change your clothes. My eldest senior brother will be here soon. He must be here to check on my schoolwork on behalf of my master." Feng Wu asked, "How did you know it's your senior brother?" Bu Jingyu said, "He comes every 10 hours to check on me. I'll be trapped in this room forever if I can't memorize everything. I'm suffocating." Bu Jingyu pushed Feng Wu to the cabinet. "These are all my clothes. Get changed." As Bu Jingyu spoke, he opened the cabinet. Feng Wu asked, "Why are there 10 sets of clothes in the same color and style?" Bu Jingyu said, "Master says this way, my state of mind won't change because of the style of my clothes. Master also has 10 sets of the same clothes like this." Feng Wu was speechless. Bu Jingyu waited anxiously outside. By then, Feng Wu had finally changed into his clothes. She walked out, and Bu Jingyu had mixed feelings when he saw her. She looked almost identical to him. Unless it was himself, no one else would be able to tell the difference. Just then, the sound of footsteps approached. Bu Jingyu told Feng Wu everything that had happened recently, then darted into the bedroom. Feng Wu saw that Bu Jingyu didn't hide under his blanket. He slipped under the bed with a swish. Feng Wu was speechless. The door opened before Feng Wu could close the bedroom door. Zhu Yi, the eldest senior brother, was here. He resembled Mr. Sakia the most, be it in his attire, speech, or actions. He strictly followed Mr. Sakiya's standards. Still, while they seemed alike, that was at a superficial level. Feng Wu could feel Zhu Yi's vigorous energy the moment he walked in. He was a spiritual overlord. However, Feng Wu wasn't sure what level he was at. Jingyu, Zhu Yi stood at the door and said calmly, "Have you memorized it?" Bu Jingyu, who was under the bed in the inner room, shook with fear. Although he knew Feng Wu looked exactly like him, she still wasn't him. His senior brother and master were both extremely wise and intelligent people. Would they find out? Bu Jingyu was so nervous. Feng Wu looked at Zhu Yi and said obediently, "Senior brother, I know a little." "What do you mean by a little?" Zhu Yi frowned. Feng Wu said, "Maybe. I need a little more time." Zhu Yi rubbed his temples. "A little more time? It must be a lot more than that." Zhu Yi looked at Feng Wu, looking disappointed. "Master is going to test you. Come with me." Feng Wu nodded. Zhu Yi looked at Feng Wu and frowned. "Don't forget where you came from. How can you be so lazy? Someone will be disappointed." Someone? Feng Wu wasn't sure. Bu Jingyu hadn't told her that. Zhu Yi continued. "Back then, he was the one who handed you to Master and asked Master to train you. If you're still so useless, when that person comes back and sees you like this, Master will be punished. Understand?" Feng Wu was curious, but she didn't dare ask. Who was that person? Why didn't Bu Jingyu tell her the important information? Feng Wu wanted to punch him. Zhu Yi said as he walked with Feng Wu, "That person will be here soon. Work hard and don't disappoint him. Got it?" Feng Wu said timidly, "Yes." 3283 Meeting the Crown Prince again. Zhu Yi seemed strict, but he was a chatterbox along the way. He kept telling his junior brother to work hard. Feng Wu nodded eagerly. However, Zhu Yi didn't seem convinced at all. He looked at his junior brother with disappointment and resignation. Feng Wu thought Zhu Yi would take her to Mr. Sakiya's yard. According to Bu Jingyu, Mr. Sakiya's courtyard wasn't far from Bu Jingyu's. They were only hundreds of meters apart. But now that they had already walked past several lakes, pavilions, and long corridors, it had been over 30 minutes. Where were they going? Feng Wu recalled the map Lu had drawn for her. They were going to the main courtyard. As expected. Soon, she saw the plaque of the main courtyard ahead of them. The path leading to the main courtyard was hundreds of meters long. It was wide enough for 8 carts to travel side by side and was paved with green jade stone slabs. The ground was smooth and orderly, giving off an indescribable noble aura. "Master is taking care of the crown prince." Zhu Yi lowered his voice and told his junior brother. "Master hasn't recovered yet, and the crown prince's injuries have been unstable. Master is very busy and doesn't have the energy to focus on you. Don't cause more trouble for Master again. All right?" Feng Wu nodded obediently. "Yes." Zhu Yi frowned. He could tell from his junior brother's tone that the latter wasn't serious. He tried to warn Bu Jingyu, "Just because you were sent by our martial grandfather doesn't mean you can be so arrogant. With that connection, you should work harder." Martial grandfather? Wait. Feng Wu did some calculations in her head. Mr. Sakiya's master was Chu Tianxiao. That meant Zhu Yi and Bu Jingyu's martial grandfather was her third senior brother. Feng Wu said, "I know that." Feng Wu's voice was as soft as a mosquito's, and Zhu Yi felt sorry for his junior brother. He said, "If you really can't memorize it, just cry out martial grandfather's name when master is about to hit you. Understand?" Feng Wu asked, "Will martial grandfather be there?" Zhu Yi looked at Feng Wu in resignation. "Of course he won't show up, but master respects him the most. If you cry out martial grandfather's name, master won't beat you to death. You know you made a bet with master. If you can't memorize the text, you'll chop off a finger." Feng Wu was speechless. How did Bu Jingyu dare to make such a bet? That was so bold of him. Feng Wu said, "Thank you, senior brother." Zhu Yi let out the long sigh. Master has yet to recover from his injuries, and His Royal Highness is still injured. The second prince is getting restless. If Martial Grandfather shows up now, all the problems will be easily solved. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. She had seen her third senior brother before. She remembered his appearance, his clothes, and his sword. If she pretended to be her third senior brother and tricked Mr. Sakiya, would she have a better chance of getting the second immortal spiritual fruit? Feng Wu decided to plan it out. Jingyu? What are you thinking about? Zhu Yi asked Feng Wu with a frown. Feng Wu said, Huh? I'm trying to remember the inscriptions. Zhu Yi nodded in satisfaction. This child finally knew fear. By then, the two of them had already entered the main courtyard. The main courtyard consisted of quadrangle dwellings. After entering the main entrance, there was a house facing the opposite direction. Beyond that was the patio. Stepping through the door, Feng Wu saw rows of mahogany chairs, which gave her a sense of formality. Zhu Yi didn't stay in the reception area. Instead, he led Feng Wu into the inner room. 3284 Jun Linyuan has powerful aid. Feng Wu saw several people in the room, and she knew most of them. The one lying on the bed was the Crown Prince, Night Owl. There were two people sitting in front of his bed. One was Mr. Sakiya, and the other was someone Feng Wu had never seen before. This person looked to be about 30 years old. She had fair skin and looked quite charming. Mu Yen stood behind her respectfully, not daring to make any reckless move. Emolan, how's His Royal Highness? Mr. Sakiya asked the beautiful woman with a pale face. Emolan? Feng Wu thought of something. Emolan was a semi-divine medicine refiner of the Dongseng Kingdom and Mu Yan's master. Wasn't she supposed to be in the capital of the Dongseng Kingdom? Feng Wu didn't expect Mr. Sakiya to invite this semi-divine medicine refiner over. She wanted to see how good Emolan's medical skills were. Emolan's expression was cold. She glanced at Mu Yen and instructed her to take care of the Crown Prince. Mu Yen immediately said yes. Emolan pushed Mr. Sakiya's wheelchair out. Seeing how close they were, Feng Wu was curious. What was the relationship between Emolan and Mr. Sakiya? At that moment Mr. Sakiya spotted Bu Jingyu, his young disciple. He glared at the latter. Feng Wu was baffled by his stare. She hadn't done anything wrong. Seeing Bu Jingyu, Emolan nodded at Feng Wu gently and said with a smile, Jingyu, you can't memorize the text again? Zhu Yi, you have to teach him well. Don't lecture him all the time. Zhu Yi nodded. Feng Wu could tell Emolan held a high position in the Dongseng Kingdom. She was almost on par with Mr. Sakiya. As Emolan pushed Mr. Sakiya into the main hall, she said softly, You have to be more careful with your injuries. Otherwise, there will be repercussions and endless trouble in the future. Mr. Sakiya said, I'm fine. Emolan chided him. Who's the semi-divine medicine refiner? You're me. If I say you're not fine, then you're not fine. Mr. Sakiya smiled bitterly. Yes, of course. Emolan sighed. Actually, the immortal spiritual fruit. Before she could finish her sentence, Mr. Sakiya interrupted her sternly. The immortal spiritual fruit belongs to His Royal Highness. No one can steal it. Even if I were to die from my injuries, I wouldn't touch it. Emolan, do you understand? Emolan frowned, not looking too happy. Mr. Sakiya softened his tone. His Royal Highness is the Dongseng Kingdom's only hope. The second prince won't do it. Emolan said, His Majesty is still in his prime. There are still many years left. He might still. Mr. Sakiya shook his head. Do you think geniuses grow in batches in this world? After Jun Linyuan appeared in the south, Night Owl appeared in our kingdom. Heaven has already taken pity on us. He's the only one. Emolan let out a long sigh. But he's seriously injured. Jun Linyuan has already hurt you so badly. Our crown prince. Their crown prince was still lying in bed, his fate unknown. This showed the difference between the two crown princes. Mr. Sakiya said, Jun Linyuan has someone powerful with him. Emolan asked, Night Owl has you, doesn't he? After that, Emolan knew she had said the wrong thing. Their opponent had snatched the immortal spiritual fruit from Mr. Sakiya, and until now, they still hadn't found out how their opponent had stolen it. However, Jun Linyuan had already used the fruit and recovered. Indeed, Emolan noticed that Mr. Sakiya's expression had turned extremely ugly. 3285 Reciting is easy. So what if Mr. Sakiya was angry? Jun Linyuan was such an outstanding man, Sakiya's displeasure wouldn't make him any less outstanding. Mr. Sakiya waved his hand. Let's not talk about that. Emolan tactfully stopped provoking Mr. Sakiya. How is the Crown Prince's condition? Mr. Sakiya asked. Emolan said, he has stabilized, but he has to take the medicinal liquid refined from the immortal spiritual fruit in 2 days. Otherwise, there will be an aftereffect. Mr. Sakiya asked, what kind of aftereffect? Emolan said, well. Mr. Sakiya said, tell me. Emolan whispered in Mr. Sakiya's ear. Even someone as composed as Mr. Sakiya turned pale. He couldn't help but raise his voice. Where did you say he was injured? Emolan shrugged. You heard me. Why did he have to blow other people up? Jun Linyuan is alive and kicking enough to even hurt you. Our Crown Prince's life is in danger. He might even become impotent. Fortunately, she was Emolan, a semi-divine medicine refiner of Dongsang. That was why she could speak without any scruples. She could even speak openly about the Crown Prince's erectile dysfunction. Mr. Sakiya's expression remained unchanged as he waved his hand at Emolan. Let's not talk about that. Emolan found it funny. There are so many things we can't talk about. Sakiya, do you have so little confidence in the Crown Prince now? Mr. Sakiya glared at her. Why did she have to bring it up? Emolan immediately waved her hand. All right, I won't talk about this anymore. After that, Emolan looked at Feng Wu. Little Jingyu, what are you doing here? Emolan tended to address Bu Jingyu in that way. This wasn't the first time Feng Wu had played Bu Jingyu, so she knew how he would react normally. She wanted to look up and smile at Emolan. But before she could do that, Mr. Sakiya shot her a sharp look. Level 5 inscriptions. Start reciting. The simple order had an indescribable authority in it. Feng Wu mumbled to herself. Mr. Sakiya stared at her with a dark expression. What are you mumbling about? Feng Wu waved her hand. It's nothing. Zhu Yi looked at Feng Wu in admiration. Muttering frustrated their master, and the youngest disciple would be scolded. Zhu Yi was amazed that his junior brother was bold enough to say that. Emolan only felt the kid was extremely adorable. She wanted to pat his head. As for reciting the text, Sakiya, don't be so strict with him. You know little Jingyu isn't very good at memorizing things. Using the same standards will put too much pressure on him. Emolan tried to speak up for Bu Jingyu. However, Mr. Sakiya sneered. Master personally entrusted him to me, and he will be coming here soon. When he sees this kid, how disappointed do you think he will be? Before Emolan could say anything, Mr. Sakiya glared at Feng Wu. Start reciting. Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. Was her third senior brother really coming? Would he recognize her? Would he help her? Feng Wu's imagination was interrupted by Mr. Sakiya's order. So be it. Other than Bu Jingyu, who was afraid of memorizing texts, Feng Wu paced around with her hands behind her back and began to recite. She swayed her head back and forth, and her speech was clear. Although she was stuttering, she still recited all the theories of level 5 inscriptions. 3286 Who is Chu Tianxiao looking for? 1. Zhu Yi and the others looked at Bu Jingyu in a different way after he recited everything. He did it. Although he stuttered, he still recited tens of thousands of words from beginning to end. Zhu Yi, who had always prided himself on being calm, took a deep breath, but he couldn't hide his excitement. Master, Jingyu memorized everything correctly. How could Mr. Sakiya not know that? However, he had a strange feeling. He felt that his disciple was sometimes smart and sometimes stupid. His talent seemed extremely unstable. Frowning, Mr. Sakiya asked Feng Wu a few questions about level 5 inscriptions. Of course, Feng Wu knew how to answer such basic questions. However, in order not to give herself away, Feng Wu stuttered again. She wasn't completely right, but she wasn't wrong either. For a person who had only memorized the theories, she could get 80 out of 100 points. Normally, Bu Jingyu could only get 50 points. He had already surpassed himself. Mr. Sakiya stared at Feng Wu with a frown, still wondering what was wrong with his disciple. Emolan smiled. Little Jingyu is so smart. He actually got all the answers right. Looks like he did a good job this time. Emolan said to Mr. Sakiya, can you hear yourself? Why are you so serious? You're forcing the kid. He was so lively in the past, but now he's like a withered flower. He's become so thin. Mr. Sakiya said, Zhu Yi, teach him level 5 inscriptions. After that, he'll have level 5 physical training. Zhu Yi quickly nodded. Mr. Sakiya instructed again, prepare the golden leg bone. When the crown prince wakes up, we can use this opportunity to refine it. Wait a minute. Feng Wu suddenly had an idea. Golden leg bone. Was that what she thought it was? You may leave. Mr. Sakiya's face was a little pale as he gestured for them to leave. Seeing Zhu Yi leave with Bu Jingyu, Mr. Sakiya rubbed his temples. Emolan only smiled. What are you doing? Mr. Sakiya said, he's actually very smart. Emolan looked at him in confusion. Mr. Sakiya said, he actually knows how to memorize texts. He has a good memory. Back in the Peacock's Woods, he could memorize everything when I pressed. It's the same this time. He's just too lazy. Mr. Sakiya sighed. Poor Bu Jingyu. His master had labeled him as smart but lazy. He would have so much more schoolwork in the future. The kid didn't know that yet. Right now, he was hiding in the room, crossing his legs and eating fruits. Meanwhile, Feng Wu's eyes were sparkling. Golden leg bone. Feng Sun could use it. Feng Wu decided to get it. She pretended to ask casually, Senior brother Zhu, the golden leg bone. Zhu Yi glanced at her. Didn't you find the golden leg bone? But are you reluctant to let the crown prince use it now? Feng Wu was surprised. She didn't know Bu Jingyu had done that. Feng Wu waved her hand. Of course not. I didn't mean that. Zhu Yi smiled bitterly. I know you offered the golden leg to the crown prince to please our master. I have a piece of advice for you. If you find anything good in the future, see if you can use it first. Only give it away when you know you can't use it. Do you understand? 3287 Who is Chu Tianxiao looking for? 2. Feng Wu said in a hurry, Thank you, Senior Brother Zhu. She thought, Zhu Yi is really nice to Bu Jingyu. He even dares to tell him such things. Zhu Yi nodded. You have connections with Martial Grandfather. No matter what, Master won't kick you out. However, you have to think about it carefully. If you continue to act so lazy, what will your future be like? Don't forget who you are. Who is Bu Jingyu? Zhu Yi said, although you've changed your identity, once this matter is investigated, people may find out. Master wants you to learn some skills as soon as possible and go to the country on the other side of the ocean. Feng Wu was so curious. What was Bu Jingyu's identity? Why did he have to escape to a country on the other side of the ocean? However, she could only obediently lower her head and listen to the lecture without asking anything. Do you want to see the golden leg bone? Zhu Yi glanced at Feng Wu. Feng Wu wanted to, but it was too obvious, so she waved her hand. No, I don't want to see it. Zhu Yi shook his head and said to Feng Wu, Master asked me to teach you inscriptions, but you're not the type that should be kept inside all the time. So, I'll give you 3 days off. After that, we'll We'll start on the real course of level 5 inscriptions. We'll work on each inscription and learn them all in one go, okay? 3 days off? That would be great. After saying goodbye to Zhu Yi, Feng Wu went back to the yard. Bu Jingyu was sitting on a chair in the yard, dozing off while basking in the sun. Feng Wu was speechless. How careless! Wasn't he afraid someone would walk in and discover two Bu Jingyu here? Hey, wake up! Feng Wu poked Bu Jingyu. Bu Jingyu jumped up from his chair and assumed a defensive posture. Hey, who dares to touch me? However, before he could finish speaking, he saw Feng Wu and immediately cowered. You're back! Bu Jingyu stared at Feng Wu, and his eyes lit up. Are you done? Did you memorize the level 5 inscriptions in front of Master? Did you recite all tens of thousands of words? Feng Wu shrugged. Why would I be here if there was a problem? Wow, you really did it? You're a genius. Bu Jingyu circled around Feng Wu and was so excited that he couldn't stop mumbling. How did I get to know such a powerful person like you? Can I call you Boss Xiao Wu from now on? You don't have to do anything else. Just memorize books for me, okay? Feng Wu said, it'll be your own knowledge after you memorize it. I think you'd better learn something. Bu Jingyu shook her head. Feng Wu said, why are you frowning? By the way, who are you? Why did Zhu Yi say you have to go to the other side of the ocean to survive? Bu Jingyu looked up and stared at Feng Wu. How did you know that? Feng Wu said, of course, if you don't tell me, I'll ask someone else. No. Stop asking around. I'll tell you. Bu Jingyu was afraid Feng Wu would ask around. If that happened, he would be dead. Bu Jingyu lowered his voice and whispered something in Feng Wu's ear. Feng Wu said, gosh, I didn't know you were a prince. Bu Jingyu stared at Feng Wu. Shoo, don't tell anyone. Feng Wu thought about the Dongsang system. 3288 Who is Chu Tianxiao looking for? 3. Seeing how useless Bu Jingyu was, Feng Wu understood right away. Are you worried Night Owl will take revenge on you guys when he takes the throne? Bu Jingyu said, what do you mean by worried? That's for sure, alright? It's so difficult to be a prince in the Dongsang kingdom. Feng Wu looked at Bu Jingyu sympathetically. Is it true your king will kill all his brothers after he takes the throne? Bu Jingyu was in awe. Yes. Feng Wu said, how cruel. Bu Jingyu said, yes. Feng Wu asked, so, you think you're going to die? Bu Jingyu looked at Feng Wu in shock. Do you think I can beat the crown prince? Feng Wu said, well, one has to have dreams. Bu Jingyu shook her head. That's impossible. The crown prince stands above us like the sun. He's the most talented prince in the Dongsang kingdom. No prince can compete with him. None. Feng Wu hadn't thought of that at first, but something suddenly occurred to her. Isn't the crown prince still unconscious? Bu Jingyu said, if you feed him the immortal spiritual fruit, the crown prince will wake up. Feng Wu said, what if the immortal spiritual fruit doesn't get fed to him? What? Bu Jingyu was stumped. He had never thought of this before. Bu Jingyu said, but Master is here. Feng Wu smiled. Your master was there last time. And he had still been completely fooled. Bu Jingyu looked at Feng Wu in surprise, and his eyes lit up. Who would want to die if they could live? However, Bu Jingyu smiled bitterly. But even if you can really steal the immortal spiritual fruit and the crown prince doesn't wake up, it won't be my turn. There are more than 20 princes fighting for that position. Feng Wu said, your king is so active. Bu Jingyu smiled bitterly. What's the use of that if we can't live long? Feng Wu said, so, according to what you're saying, aren't the other 20 princes all working together to fight off Night Owl? Because according to the kingdom system, if Night Owl really took the throne, he would definitely kill all his brothers. Then, none of these 20-odd princes would be able to escape. Bu Jingyu said, I heard they were, but I didn't participate. Feng Wu stared at him. Bu Jingyu said, when my mother gave birth to me, the crown prince was already outstanding. My mother knew it was impossible for me to win this position, so she swapped me out. I should have been the 18th prince. Bu Jingyu smiled bitterly. Only Grandmaster, Master, and Senior Brother Zhu know my identity. No one else knows. My father should know as well, but he pretends he doesn't, Bu Jingyu said. That's because Martial Grandfather was behind this, and father is actually afraid of Martial Grandfather as well. Feng Wu said, then I'm curious. Why did your Martial Grandfather, Chu Tianxiao, help you? I heard my mother did him a small favor. Feng Wu asked, your mother could do that? Bu Jingyu said, my mother is a witch. She sacrificed her life and performed a divination for my Martial Grandfather. Feng Wu was curious. What divination? Bu Jingyu said, I think he's looking for someone. Feng Wu asked, who? Bu Jingyu said, I'm not sure. I only know he's looking for someone. 3289 Who is Chu Tianxiao looking for? 4. My mother's divination contained a portrait. The maid who accompanied me at that time was a master at drawing. She drew the portrait. I've seen it before. Feng Wu asked, where's the painting? Bu Jingyu said, I remember I brought it with me. According to the maid, if my life really is in danger in the future, I can use it to ask for Martial Grandfather's help. My brother, the Crown Prince, might actually spare my life. Feng Wu said, let me see the painting. Bu Jingyu refused. That won't do. That's... Feng Wu said, then you can memorize your own text tomorrow. She headed for the door. Bu Jingyu immediately stopped her. Hey, don't do that. Why are you so grumpy? Why are you always angry? I'll show you, all right? Bu Jingyu rolled his eyes at Feng Wu and nagged, it's just a painting. Look at how curious you are. You won't be able to tell anything even if you look at it. Feng Wu asked, why? Bu Jingyu said, I haven't seen anything in it after so many years. What can you possibly see? As Bu Jingyu spoke, he rummaged through the cabinets. Finally, he found a well-wrapped package in a drawer. He opened the waterproof first layer, the fireproof second layer, then the third layer. After opening all 5 layers, Feng Wu saw a scroll inside. Bu Jingyu carefully unrolled the painting. As he unrolled the painting, he said to Feng Wu, I'm telling you, this is just a little girl's painting. Besides, I don't think there's such a little girl in this world. When Bu Jingyu finished unrolling the scroll, Feng Wu was dumbfounded. This painting. The little girl in the painting. She was only 3 or 4 years old. On her head were 2 small buns decorated with white beads. She had fair skin and exquisite facial features. Her big eyes in particular were clear and innocent. Her chubby little hands and cute little fairy dress were simply so soft and cute that they made one want to scream. No matter whose family's little girl it was, everyone would want such a daughter. Why was Feng Wu dumbfounded? Wasn't the girl her? She had looked like this when she was 3 years old. Not all little girls looked alike. It was really rare to see a good-looking little girl like her. Look at the little white beads on the buns and the little red dress with the white fur on the edges. The beautiful lady had sewn those clothes herself. There was no other dress like it in the world. Bu Jingyu was confused by Feng Wu's dazed look. He waved his hand in front of Feng Wu's face. Wake up, wake up. Feng Wu finally snapped out of her daze and stared at Bu Jingyu. Was her 3rd senior brother looking for her? Why was he looking for her? Did he know of her existence? Feng Wu had so many questions in her head, and she wanted to find Chu Tianxiao right now. However, she still didn't know where this Martial Grandfather was. Bu Jingyu nudged Feng Wu. Hey, Boss Feng Wu? Boss Feng Wu? Are you perplexed too? I thought someone as good-looking as you wouldn't be shocked by someone else's looks. As Bu Jingyu spoke, he sighed. I wonder what this little girl looks like now. She must be as beautiful as a god, right? When I grow up, I must marry her. In your dreams. Feng Wu slapped Bu Jingyu on the head. Don't even think about it. 3290 Who is Chu Tianxiao looking for? 5. Ouch. Rubbing his head, Bu Jingyu looked at Feng Wu accusingly. I didn't say I wanted to marry you. The little girl in the painting looks so cute and obedient. She won't be as fierce as you. Feng Wu said, cut the crap. What does Chu Tianxiao want with this girl? Bu Jingyu said, I don't know. The maid didn't say. Feng Wu asked, where's your maid? Bu Jingyu said sadly, she's dead. Feng Wu asked, how? Bu Jingyu shook his head and didn't say much. My mother is already dead, and my maid is also dead. You can't get any answers. Bu Jingyu rolled up the painting and wrapped it up layer by layer. He was very careful, afraid that he would leave marks. This is my life-saving charm, Bu Jingyu said solemnly to Feng Wu. Feng Wu rubbed her temple, thinking, your real life-saving charm is right in front of you, okay? But Feng Wu wouldn't tell anyone that. She thought that Chu Tianxiao might be looking for her out of good intentions, but what if? Therefore, Feng Wu decided to hide her identity and wait to see what happened. She looked up and saw it was getting dark outside. She wouldn't be staying in Sun Castle for long, so she had to act as soon as possible. Hence, Feng Wu asked Bu Jingyu, do you know where the golden leg bone is? Bu Jingyu looked at Feng Wu in distress. Don't tell me you want to take the golden leg bone with you as well. Feng Wu said, why not? Bu Jingyu said, it's in the main courtyard, where the crown prince is. It's heavily guarded and the place is rife with danger. Do you really want to take it? I advise you not to. Feng Wu asked, what about the immortal spiritual fruit? Bu Jingyu said, I think you're going to die this time. Feng Wu asked, where's the immortal spiritual fruit? Bu Jingyu said, you stole the last one, so this time, Master set layers of traps to confuse you people who want to snatch the immortal spiritual fruit. I don't know where the fruit is, and Master definitely won't tell me. I know my second eldest brother is determined to get it this time as well. That's because if the crown prince dies, the second prince will be the most outstanding person among the princes, and he'll most likely take the throne. Master even suspects that the loss of the first immortal spiritual fruit was the work of the second prince in cooperation with the Junwo Empire. Feng Wu said, your master sure is imaginative. Bu Jingyu said, but Master will never know it was you. Feng Wu said, and you? Bu Jingyu glared at Feng Wu. I already tried to talk you out of it, but you won't listen and insist on getting yourself killed. What else can I do? Just then Feng Wu asked, where's the armory? Bu Jingyu stared at Feng Wu with wide eyes. Feng Wu grinned. Bu Jingyu said, forget it, I don't want to talk to you. Go get killed. At first, he had thought Feng Wu was here for the immortal spiritual fruit, but he had never expected that she was after more than that fruit. Apart from the immortal spiritual fruit, she also wanted the golden leg bone and the flying fighter jet. He had no choice but to admire her. Bu Jingyu pretended he didn't know anything, but by then, Feng Wu had already gone out. The first place she had to go was the main courtyard. Feng Wu had made sure to put on some disguise when she left. She was dressed in black, covering herself with a black scarf and a black hat and leaving only her eyes visible. 3291 Night Visit. Her eyes were also disguised. So, as long as she wasn't caught red-handed, she could dash off, put away her night clothes, and turn into Bu Jingyu again. Feng Wu ran through the night like a cat. Because Zhu Yi had walked the route with her earlier in the day and Feng Wu had a good memory, she soon reached the main courtyard. Xue Zhibei used to live in the main courtyard, but the crown prince lived there now. Xue Zhibei moved to Wind's Snow Tower in the east. Mr. Sakia lived in the left courtyard in the south. Bu Jingyu and Zhu Yi also lived with him. Mo Lan had also moved in. The rest of the military officers lived in the west. As for the north side, the stewards, maids and servants all lived there together. Because of what Bu Jingyu said, Feng Wu went straight to the main courtyard. She was ready for action. The crown prince was unconscious, and his brothers all wanted to kill him so that they could survive. Therefore, they would definitely take this opportunity to assassinate the crown prince. This was a grand battle royal. If only one person could survive, then in order to survive, everyone would become even more ferocious than wild beasts. That was how Night Owl's brothers were right now. They couldn't wait to take out Night Owl, who sat firmly in his position as the crown prince. At the entrance of the main courtyard, a row of guards stood in a line, guarding the door. These guards were the violent blade guards that Mr. Sakia had trained for Night Owl. There were a total of 10 of them, and all of them were extremely ferocious. Feng Wu hid in the shadows of some rocks nearby, trying to figure out a way to sneak in without anyone noticing. At that moment, a cold voice rang out. "Since you're here, why don't you come out and meet me?" Mr. Sakia's voice. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She hadn't even thought of a way in, but Mr. Sakia had already noticed her. Just as she was wondering if she should run away, a figure flew past her and charged forward. Wherever he passed, a cold light flashed. The light came from the sword in his hand. Feng Wu was speechless. So, the person Mr. Sakia was referring to wasn't her. That made sense. To make Mr. Sakia wary, a person should be at least a spiritual overlord. The person flying over her head was a spiritual overlord. Feng Wu wasn't sure about that person's exact level. She only saw a flash of light as the man flew past the guards. Although the 10 guards in a row were clad in golden armor and held long sabers in their hands, they were actually unable to resist the enemy's attack. In an instant, all 10 heads were cut off, and blood spewed out from their headless bodies. It was bloody and terrifying. Feng Wu had 2 choices. Should she take the opportunity to enter, or turn around and escape? Feng Wu chose the first option without hesitation. An expert had drawn Mr. Sakia's attention. If she didn't sneak in now, she wouldn't find such a good opportunity again. At that thought, Feng Wu flipped and entered the main courtyard. It was a courtyard with all the necessary houses. Near the door was a house facing the opposite direction. On the left and right sides were the east and west wings. Beyond them was the main room. Feng Wu remembered what Bu Jingyu had said when she was about to leave. There was a secret passage under the east wing that was suitable for hiding things. However, Feng Wu saw that the defense formation in the west wing was more rigorous. 3292 Lone Sword. Mr. Sakia. Feng Wu thought to herself. The east wing was facing the west. In the dark, Feng Wu tiptoed toward the east wing without hesitation. However, before Feng Wu could rush into the east wing, an invisible shockwave spread out from the courtyard with Mr. Sakia at the center. It was such a terrifying power. In an instant, Feng Wu was almost sent flying away. Feng Wu spat out a mouthful of blood. Just then, the golden bead which Feng Wu had received from the sacred imperial spider blocked the attack for her. That was why Feng Wu was still alive. Otherwise, she would have long turned into a pile of pulp. Feng Wu patted her chest with lingering fear and heaved a sigh of relief. She felt like she had just survived a disaster, and her heart gradually calmed down. In fact, Mr. Sakia's shockwave wasn't directed at her. It was directed at the swordsman who had tried to assassinate Mr. Sakia. Feng Wu tried to move, only to find that the air around her seemed to have frozen. In this space, the gravity was more than twice as heavy. She felt like she was pinned to the ground and couldn't move a step. To make it worse, she felt as if there was a mountain pressing down on her head. Her blood was boiling, and she was on the verge of exploding. Her breathing involuntarily became heavier. However, in order not to be discovered, Feng Wu had to restrain herself with her strong willpower as she breathed slowly. Sweat the size of soybeans rolled down her cheeks, and her back was soaked. The shockwave came from Mr. Sakia, but the pressure came from the mysterious swordsman. Feng Wu couldn't take the battle between 2 spiritual overlords anymore. The only good thing was that Feng Wu was hiding in the shadow of a pillar. The moon was blocked by the clouds, so no one would notice her if they didn't pay attention. But she still could be discovered at any time. Anxious, Feng Wu took a step forward with difficulty. Her lungs hurt so much that she almost fell to the ground. Meanwhile, Mr. Sakia was confronting the swordsman. "Lone Sword, do you have a death wish?" Sitting in his wheelchair, Mr. Sakia stared at his opponent with cold eyes. He looked slightly pale, but his eyes were wise, firm and calm. Feng Wu had never heard of this name before, but he was very famous in the Dongsang Kingdom. He would always strike once only. His strongest killing move was called One Strike. Once the strike was made, he would leave immediately, regardless of victory or defeat. Therefore, he was known as the Lone Sword. Right now, Lone Sword stared at Mr. Sakiya and said, "There's a price on your head." Mr. Sakiya looked at him indifferently. "No one can afford me." Shook his head. "You have a price." Mr. Sakiya said, "I'd like to ask who's the bidder? What's the price?" Was gearing up for his strongest killing move. Therefore, he didn't answer Mr. Sakiya's question. Just then, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Strong and sonorous footsteps rushed over like thunder. It was the violent blade guards. Mr. Sakiya had personally trained them for the Crown Prince, Night Owl. "I'm late. Sorry about this, Mr. Sakiya." The leader was the head of the violent blade guards. He was over 2 meters tall, burly, and majestic. A violent power seemed to pour out of him. 3,293 earth-shattering. He was wearing heavy armor and a helmet, leaving only his eyes exposed. It only took one look for Feng Wu to know that the leader of the violent blade guards was a cultivator who specialized in physical strength. That made sense. Since he was a violent blade guard, he was naturally of that type. Seeing that a fight was about to break out, Feng Wu gripped the phoenix pen and started drawing. However, under such gravity, even her hand shook. How could she quickly draw anything? Writing a word became the most difficult thing. Feng Wu felt like she was soaking in water. The pain was so intense that she felt numb. But she couldn't stop. Because she knew very well that if she didn't hide inside the inscription formation in the East Wing, she wouldn't be able to withstand Lone Sword's attack. He had yet to make a move, but she couldn't take it anymore. "Indeed, Mr. Sakiya said to Kwang Feng, the leader of the violent blade guards, "Back off." A group of people moved in unison. The 30 violent blade guards fanned out and surrounded Mr. Sakiya. "Sir, the Divine Crossbow Squad is late. Please forgive us." Feng Wu turned around and saw the archers. They were all dressed in leather armor, and their crossbows looked like bats. They were made of some steel which Feng Wu didn't recognize, but she recognized the strings. They were the tendons from the back of the flood dragon. After being soaked in glue for several years, they finally became incomparably tough enough to be made into crossbow strings. This kind of string had a special characteristic. It was tough and powerful. It gave each crossbow a long range and a strong penetrative power, and the arrow's trajectory would be extremely accurate. There were also 30 members in the Divine Crossbow Squad. With a look from Mr. Sakiya, they ran behind him and spread out to the 2 wings. They each put a leg forward and held a divine crossbow in their hands. Once the arrows were set, the soldiers aimed them at Lone Sword. As soon as the order was given, the divine crossbows would fire at the same time. The sharp arrowheads were all aimed at Lone Sword. Feng Wu didn't know what Lone Sword's strike felt like. She just knew that even though the sword wasn't aimed at her, she still felt as if she was in an ice cellar. The phoenix pen moved faster. The more anxious Feng Wu was, the steadier her grip became. Lone Sword stared at Mr. Sakiya with cold eyes. As a swordsman, there was nothing else in his eyes but his goal. He didn't have any unnecessary expressions or words. He only cared about the sword in his hand. Just then he finally found the best moment. One strike. Lone Sword pointed his sword at Mr. Sakiya, and the blade glinted. His body seemed to turn into a sharp blade, becoming one with the sword. He charged at Mr. Sakiya at lightning speed. That awe-inspiring killing intent and the terrifying gravity felt as if a storm had enveloped the sky. The Divine Crossbow Squad and Violet Blade Guards behind Mr. Sakiya felt their blood churn, and they nearly lost their balance. However, they were well trained. Even though they were about to faint, they still firmly held their ground. The members of the Divine Crossbow Squad held their crossbows steady. The arrows didn't shake at all. How hard had they trained to be able to do this? Feng Wu was alarmed when she saw that. The Dongsang Kingdom was indeed a terrifying enemy. When Lone Sword stabbed at Mr. Sakia also launched a counterattack. Feng Wu finally broke the formation in the east wing and darted inside. Whoosh! The moment Feng Wu jumped in, the energy outside exploded. The entire space shook violently. The ground trembled. At that moment, it was as if a heavenly god had unleashed their might, and the world collapsed. 3294 Golden Leg Bone. Luckily, Feng Wu had already jumped into the formation. Ripples spread out from the inscriptions of the formation, which relieved a lot of the pressure on Feng Wu. She knew very well that the battle outside would be over soon, and it wouldn't be so easy for her to do anything then. Hence, she had to be quick. It would be best if she could find the immortal spiritual fruit and the golden leg bone here. This way, her mission would be completed, and she could immediately be on her way. However, Feng Wu knew she would have to be the goddess of luck for that to happen. It was pitch black in the east wing, so dark that she couldn't even see her fingers. Feng Wu didn't dare light a flame. There was a commotion outside. Mr. Sakia, Lone Sword, the Violent Blade Guards and the Divine Crossbow Squad were all there. Even the slightest movement from her would attract their attention. Feng Wu could see in the dark. Although not all that clearly, she was much better than other people. Soon, she realized that there was something wrong with the candlestick. She gently turned the third candlestick. As expected, she heard a soft click, and a staircase slowly appeared. Without further ado, Feng Wu hurried into the basement. Just as Bu Jingyu had said, this basement was indeed the armory. Looking around, Feng Wu saw wooden shelves with inscriptions on them. She took out a random sword and glanced at it. A level 7 inscription weapon. A level 8 inscription weapon. Feng Wu was tempted. An inscription weapon wasn't something she could draw casually with the Phoenix pen since it required a blueprint, engravings, coloring, and so on. The entire process was very time-consuming. Therefore, every inscription sword was a treasure. And now, there were at least 100 of them here. All of them were more advanced than the 5 inscription swords that Feng Sun had won at the cost of his life. With 100 inscription weapons, the strength of the Junwu Empire would increase at an unprecedented rate. Feng Wu raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry, I'll take them all." She picked up all the inscription weapons on the shelves and put them in her storage bag. The storage bag that Jun Linyuan had given her was very useful. It could hold all kinds of inanimate objects. As for the storage space where her beautiful master was, Feng Wu wouldn't use it easily, for fear of blaspheming her master. Feng Wu then saw wooden boxes stacked against the walls around the shelves. Out of curiosity, Feng Wu went up to take a look. The wooden boxes were locked. They weren't iron locks but inscription locks. Feng Wu was over the moon. A complicated black iron lock might stop her, but an inscription lock wouldn't. Carefully, Feng Wu opened the boxes. These wooden boxes were all about the same size, about half a meter tall and over 1.5 meters long. Feng Wu looked inside. She was overjoyed. What was inside? Inscription bombs. Mu Yen had given Feng Wu a few samples before, so Feng Wu recognized them immediately. They were inscription bombs. If Mu Yen hadn't given her any, Feng Wu might not have known. Feng Wu opened every wooden box. They were all filled with inscription bombs. There were 24 inscription bombs in one box. There was a total of 24 wooden boxes placed against the wall. Therefore, there was a total of 576 inscription bombs. This was a huge number. How could she leave any for her enemies? She took them all. Feng Wu was a little frustrated. There wasn't enough space in the storage bag that Jun Linyuan had given her. 3295 Golden Leg Bone, 2. After putting away the 24 large wooden boxes, there was less than 10 square meters left. She had to use it sparingly. Right, the golden leg bone. Feng Wu quickly looked around. She didn't forget she had taken a huge risk to come down to the basement for the immortal spiritual fruit and the golden leg bone. She walked around, but there was no scent of the immortal spiritual fruit here, so she could forget about that. The golden leg bone. The golden leg bone. Feng Wu couldn't find it in the dark. She was about to leave when she heard a voice in her head. Are you really blind? It was Little Phoenix's voice. You're awake? Feng Wu said excitedly to Little Phoenix in her head. When Little Phoenix played the role of the powerful Master Phoenix to deceive the sacred Imperial Spider, it had used too much energy and had to go back to its space to recuperate. Now it finally woke up. Little Phoenix said, If I hadn't woken up, you would have left this treasure cave empty-handed. I was so mad that I had to wake up. Feng Wu said, But I can take away a lot of inscription weapons and bombs. Little Phoenix rolled its eyes. Those things are good for you right now, but they're not treasures. Feng Wu said, I know, but I've already emptied out this place. There's nothing else. Little Phoenix rolled its eyes. Are you really blind? Feng Wu asked, What? Little Phoenix asked, Can't you see what's hanging on the wall on your left? Feng Wu said, It's a painting. No, it's not. As she got closer, Feng Wu realized that it was a piece of bone. Little Phoenix said, That's the golden leg bone you've been longing for. Feng Wu asked, It's so small. Little Phoenix said, It's not about the quantity, but the quality. Once it's refined and fused with a human bone, the power will increase by 200%. Without another word, Feng Wu stuffed the golden leg bone into her storage space. Then she dashed out of the formation and into the night. By the time Feng Wu rushed out, the battle between Lone Sword and Mr. Sakia had already ended. Lone Sword could no longer use a sword. Because his sword never touched Mr. Sakia. But Mr. Sakia broke Lone Sword's defense and punched him in the head. Lone Sword staggered to the ground and spat out blood, and he couldn't get up again. He vomited blood and said, I can't kill you today, but others will. As soon as he said that, Feng Wu jumped out of the east wing, broke the formation, and charged out of the great general's residence. Everyone was shocked. Mr. Sakia, the violent blade guards, the divine crossbow squad, and Lone Sword. They all subconsciously raised their heads and looked at the figure that flew past. Lone Sword seemed to have a thought. So did Mr. Sakia. Mr. Sakia wanted to capture Lone Sword. By then, Lone Sword had already used his sword energy to pierce his energy channels. Finally, he collapsed. He couldn't be any more dead. Lone Sword thought the second prince had sent someone to follow him and attack the crown prince, Night Owl. Mr. Sakia also believed someone sent by the second prince had taken the opportunity to attack the crown prince, Night Owl. Divine crossbow squad, fire. Violent blade guards, hunt that person down. As for Mr. Sakia, he quickly turned around and rushed in to see the crown prince. 3296 Who did it? As for Mr. Sakia, he quickly turned around and rushed in to see the crown prince. The divine crossbow squad indeed shot the arrows. However, the person was too fast and streaked past like a meteor. Their range was limited, so the arrows missed. The violent blade guards had already drawn their sabers and rushed out. Mr. Sakia was worried about the crown prince, so he was the first to rush in to look at him. There was naturally someone guarding the crown prince in the room. After all, they only had one crown prince. They couldn't afford to lose him. The crown prince is fine. Only then did Mr. Sakia slowly calm down. He was too anxious just now. This wasn't how he would usually act. Mr. Sakia surveyed his surroundings. There was nothing missing from the inner room, but his heart was in his mouth. Something didn't feel right. He stood on the porch and looked around. In the middle of the courtyard was Lone Sword's corpse. On the left and right sides of the courtyard were the east and west wing rooms. There were some things inside, although not much. SSSS. Mr. Sakia immediately felt something was amiss. Mr. Sakia, what's wrong? Mu Yen chased after him. At this moment, Zhu Yi also rushed in from outside. Master? When Mr. Sakia saw Zhu Yi, he frowned even more. He pointed at the east wing and said, "Let's take a look inside." Yes. Zhu Yi knew that their backup weapons were hidden here and wouldn't be activated easily. If they were activated, that meant that they were facing real trouble in battle. Also, the golden leg bone was inside. As the formation here was natural and rich in spiritual essence, it was the best way to maintain the spiritual essence of the golden leg bone. Therefore Mr. Sakia casually placed the golden leg bone inside. No one had considered the possibility of it being stolen, since this was the main courtyard where the crown prince, Night Owl, lived, and which Mr. Sakia guarded. Moreover, there were layers of protection from a level 8 formation and inscriptions. How could it be lost? But now, Master. Zhu Yi was stunned when he saw the empty basement. This couldn't be happening. How was this possible? Mr. Sakia was waiting for Zhu Yi to report, and the latter called out to him with a hint of panic in his voice. Mr. Sakia had personally taught Zhu Yi and knew what kind of temperament he had. It was definitely not a small matter to make Zhu Yi panic. Mr. Sakia didn't delay and immediately entered the room. Mu Yen was instantly curious. What was going on? No one stopped her, so she quickly followed. When she saw the rows of empty shelves and corners of the underground treasury, she was stunned. No way! I remember when I came down previously, there were inscription weapons on the shelves. And in this corner, there were large boxes of inscription bombs. No one answered Mu Yen. Mu Yen continued, "Why did they suddenly disappear? Mr. Sakia, were you in the courtyard just now?" Now that Mu Yen had her master's support, she became arrogant again. Still, no one answered her. However, Mu Yen felt great. It turned out Mr. Sakia could wear such an ugly expression. Mr. Sakia stared at Zhu. Zhu Yi's expression was very ugly. Master, the golden leg bone. Mr. Sakia's face darkened. You didn't refine it. Zhu Yi smiled bitterly. I already had something going on and was about to come over to refine the golden leg bone. Who knew? Mr. Sakia was at a loss for words. He could only wave at Zhu Yi. It seems the golden leg bone isn't meant for the crown prince. 3297 Immortal Spiritual Fruit. He accepted it. However, Zhu Yi found it difficult to calm down. Jingyu had given up the golden leg bone. If Zhu Yi had refined it back then, none of this would have happened. Mr. Sakia's face was as dark as water. No one knew what he was thinking. Master, who do you think it was? Zhu Yi asked. Mu Yen looked at Zhu Yi as if she was looking at a retard. Oh, isn't it obvious? It was someone sent by the second prince. Didn't Lone Sword accept the second prince's bounty and try to kill your master? Lone Sword? Zhu Yi didn't know what had happened yet. Mr. Sakia didn't admit or deny it. His eyebrows knitted tightly together as he stared at the destroyed inscription, his eyes flickering. Zhu Yi stared at the spot where the inscription was destroyed and asked Mr. Sakia, is it possible that it was done by the Junwo Empire to frame the second prince? Mu Yan's eyes flashed. The first person she thought of was Feng Wu. However, Mr. Sakia said to Zhu Yi, have a feel of this aura. Zhu Yi went up to take a closer look and really found a faint aura. That person was from Dongsang. Zhu Yi was very certain. Because this was the aura of the people of Dongsang. It has the aura of a magical plant, Zhu Yi confirmed again. Mr. Sakia nodded. Zhu Yi said, this person is proficient in formations and inscriptions and is also a wood element cultivator. It's not difficult to track such a person down. I remember the second prince has such a person by his side. It was the second prince's master, Supreme Master Wood. Master, could it be Supreme Master Wood? The more Zhu Yi thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. But would Supreme Master would take away these inscription weapons and inscription bombs? Mu Yen was puzzled. Zhu Yi said, "What if he's deliberately trying to confuse us so that we wouldn't think it's him?" Mr. Sakia let out a long sigh and instructed Zhu Yi, "Find out who it was." Zhu Yi received the order and left. Mu Yan wanted to say something, but Mr. Sakia had already turned around and headed for the left side of the courtyard where he lived. After running out of the yard, Feng Wu soon started to play hide and seek. As long as she could find a corner to conceal herself, she could turn into another person. So, how could they catch her? However, at this moment, she had no intention of leaving because she still had very important things to do. She didn't know where Mr. Sakia had placed the immortal spiritual fruit. A small immortal spiritual fruit would be easy to hide. Others wouldn't be able to find it easily. Unfortunately for Sakia, the immortal spiritual fruit was still on the immortal spirit tree and had yet to mature. Therefore, even if Mr. Sakia transplanted the tree, he would definitely need a place to plant it. So, where was this place? Feng Wu didn't know, but Mr. Sakia did. That was why she had rushed out in front of Mr. Sakia and Lone Sword. It was to make Mr. Sakia panic. As for the damaged inscription, Feng Wu had left it there on purpose. Where was Feng Wu now? She was hiding in Mr. Sakia's left courtyard. Feng Wu knew very well that a cautious man like Mr. Sakia wouldn't choose to build the secret passage in the main courtyard, which was crowded with people. He would most likely choose his own courtyard. Therefore, Feng Wu hid in the left courtyard as soon as possible and waited for Mr. Sakia to arrive. She was right. Less than 5 minutes, Mr. Sakia pushed open the door and entered. Feng Wu held her breath, not daring to make a sound. $32.99 Secret 1. Mr. Sakia, what secrets are you hiding behind this wall? Well, Mr. Sakia was in the Crown Prince's courtyard. Feng Wu hurried into the underground passage. However, she was very cautious. Mr. Sakia was a very cautious person. He would be able to spot any clues Feng Wu left behind. Hence, Feng Wu closed the door and flew in. At first, it was a flight of stone steps that wound down. Feng Wu counted them, and after 99 steps, she finally reached the bottom. When she stood on the ground, what she saw shocked her. Was that an underground network of roads? Feng Wu saw paths stretching out, and she seemed to be standing at the center of the hub. There weren't many paths. Feng Wu counted 8 in total. It was as if a watermelon had been divided into the same 8 portions by 4 threads, and she was at the center. Feng Wu had never expected to see such a scene. She had thought she would see the immortal spiritual tree. However, she had a vague feeling that Mr. Sakia must have hidden the immortal spiritual fruit on one of the 8 paths. The cunning Mr. Sakia must be trying to prevent others from stealing the immortal spiritual fruit. Feng Wu took a step forward. Soon she shook her head. The ground in front of her was a huge formation. If she didn't know the route in advance, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Just then, Feng Wu heard a soft voice. Someone was here. Feng Wu didn't dare reveal her identity, not even as Bu Jingyu. Hence, she darted into the formation and hid behind a pile of rocks. At that moment, 2 people appeared where Feng Wu had been standing. Feng Wu looked up and saw the 2 of them had their faces covered. She couldn't see what they looked like, but they were both quite capable. Both of them were level 7 spiritual lords. When they saw these 8 paths, a trace of satisfaction immediately appeared in their eyes. The slightly taller person took out a sheepskin scroll from his pocket. After unfolding it, he took a look and said to the person beside him, "Zhue, look, it's here." Zhue checked the scroll, and his eyes were filled with excitement. The information provided by the captain is right. The manufacturing factory is here. Meng, we're going to make a great contribution this time. Let's go. We'll take the lead and find out the exact location. Then our mission will be complete. After that, the captain will definitely ask the second prince to record our meritorious deeds. Zhue and Meng quickly entered the formation and chose one of the paths. Meng? Captain? The second prince? The manufacturing factory. Feng Wu extracted all the keywords and mumbled under her breath. She understood everything now. Although Lone Sword had come to assassinate Mr. Sakia, he was actually the first wave of cannon fodder sent by the second prince to restrain Mr. Sakia. These two people were the ones carrying out the second prince's real mission. With the map in their hands, they chose the path that led east and immediately dashed off. Feng Wu noticed a number on the east side, 3. Looking left and right, she realized that there was a pattern to these roads. Like a clock, the path to the north had the number 1 on it. 3,300 Secret 2. The path to the north had the number 1 on it. The path to the northeast had the number 2. 3 was on the path due east and so on. Meng and Jue chose path 3. Was it the right direction? Would path 3 be safe? Sitting down, Feng Wu began to work on the formation. She didn't trust anything but the phoenix pen in her hand and the inscriptions her beautiful master had taught her. Feng Wu worked very quickly. In less than 15 minutes, she had eliminated the other 7 paths. Because those 7 paths were all lethal traps. In other words, only one of these 8 paths was safe. Night Owl and Mr. Sakia were so ruthless. Feng Wu rose to her feet and chased after the 2 men. With the second princes Meng and Jue taking the lead, Feng Wu felt less in awe of the unknown. Feng Wu thought to herself, those 2 men are level 7 spiritual lords, but they're so fast that even ordinary spiritual overlords may not be able to catch up to them. This type of cultivator was most suitable for tracking and investigation. Feng Wu was still thinking about that when a light appeared in front of her. She realized she was almost at the end of the road, and there was a cluster of buildings at the end. At the end of the path was a mountain. The people here had hollowed out the middle of the mountain and dug out a building complex. Feng Wu was on high ground. She looked down from above and saw that the building complex was about 500,000 square meters in size. She could see houses everywhere. The houses were neither luxurious nor exquisite. Instead, they were built with very rough stones. However, Feng Wu saw people coming in and out of the room, looking very busy. Wait, what was that? Feng Wu saw 10 people struggling to carry something covered in a black cloth out. Judging from the outline of the black cloth, Feng Wu realized it was a fighter jet. A fighter jet? Seriously? Feng Wu was dumbfounded. A few hours ago, when she moved the inscription weapons and inscription bombs from the underground warehouse in the east wing of the main courtyard into her storage space, she had wished there were some fighter jets there. However, she was looking at a fighter jet right now. There were 10 people carrying it. It had to be a fighter jet. Feng Wu was envious. She remembered very clearly that the Junwo Empire lacked the technology and couldn't even make a fighter jet. But now that in front of her, could this be a fighter jet manufacturing factory? Feng Wu was dumbfounded. What kind of luck was that? She felt like the daughter of the god of luck. Just as Feng Wu was getting dizzy from excitement, 2 people jumped at her and were about to attack her. Feng Wu realized what was going on. It was the 2 people she had seen at the intersection. Feng Wu knew they were treating her as their enemy. Although they were indeed enemies. Jue, what are you doing? Feng Wu moved as fast as she could when they charged at her. She reprimanded them in the Dongsang language in a low voice and kicked them away at the same time. It was true that Feng Wu was a level 6 spiritual lord, and it was also true that they were level 7 ones. But after all, Feng Wu wasn't only invincible among her peers, she could also defeat opponents above her level. Moreover, she was so fast that she sent them flying before they could react. 3301 Aircraft Manufacturing Plant, 1. Feng Wu used her strength in a clever way. Therefore, the 2 men's abdomens were in so much pain that they almost convulsed. That wasn't the only consequence. When they were kicked away, they didn't dare to land. Because they would make a sound when they landed, they tried their best to deflect the force. This time, it hurt even more. However, what shocked them even more was How did this person know their names? At this moment, 10 people were carrying a fighter jet toward them. Feng Wu glared at them and lowered her voice. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. Get over here. This tone of command was so decisive. However, when Feng Wu gave the order, the two of them went over obediently. Feng Wu dragged them over and hid them behind a rock. We can't hide here. We'll be discovered. Zhue was anxious. Feng Wu said, Shut up. Zhue wanted to say something else, but Feng Wu glared at him. Useless. If I'd known you were such a coward, I wouldn't have let our captain send you here. Captain. Zhue was about to say something when Feng Wu glared at him and he fell silent. Feng Wu said, Don't worry. I used an illusion trick. They won't notice us. However, how could Zhue and Meng believe her? There were 10 people on the other side. If they turned their heads slightly and looked over, they would discover the 3 of them. Just then, someone really looked in their direction. Zhue and Meng panicked. They stood ramrod straight. Their muscles were tense and they were ready to go into battle. However, those men acted as if they couldn't see the 3 of them at all. Carrying the fighter jet, they left. It wasn't until they turned toward another black building complex that Meng realized what was going on. He looked at Feng Wu in shock. How could you be so sure that he wouldn't notice us? Feng Wu retorted impatiently, Are you retarded? I told you I know how to use illusions. Then why did you save us? Zhue asked nervously. If it wasn't for this person in black, the 2 of them would have been discovered. The only thing that would have awaited them after that was death. Feng Wu said, You 2 are so stupid. Why would the captain let you come alone? I've been following you and protecting you all the way, but you didn't notice me at all. You idiots. What? Zhue and Meng looked at each other. Didn't the captain say this mission would only be assigned to them? However, according to this teenager, he was here to secretly protect them. That was actually possible. However, they were still a little suspicious. Feng Wu glared at them. I wonder what the second prince sees in you. You're as stupid as pigs. The second prince. There were very, very few people in this world who knew that the captain worked for the second prince. Are you really one of us? Did the captain really send you to protect us? Zhue was already 80% convinced. Feng Wu asked, Do you know anything about level 8 inscriptions? The 2 men shook their heads. Feng Wu asked, Can you get in? She pointed at the door to the building complex. The 2 men shook their heads. Feng Wu said, Let's go. I'll get you in. Get in. Meng and Zhue looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. They had been stopped outside the door by the level 8 inscription, and their hearts had burned with anxiety. The others seemed to be able to just scan their faces and go in, but they couldn't enter no matter what. If they couldn't find out what was going on inside, how could they make a contribution? 3302 Aircraft Manufacturing Plant. 2. If they could inquire about the situation inside and draw a map, they would be able to live a comfortable life when they returned. At that thought, both Meng and Zhue nodded at Feng Wu. They now believed that Feng Wu was one of the second prince's men and was there to protect and help them. Their captain was so considerate. However, they still had some doubts. After Feng Wu broke the formation and led them into the building complex, all their suspicions were swept away. We're in. We're in. The 2 of them were extremely excited. They quickly found a spot to hide. Zhue took out a piece of parchment from his chest pocket and carefully opened it. Feng Wu moved closer to take a look. It was a map. It used a simple composition method to depict some of the locations. It was indeed very simple. The only places marked on it were the inscription engraving area, the mechanical manufacturing area, the assembly area, and the inventory area. There were no other notes. The huge building complex in front of them was at least 1,000,000 square meters, and there were people coming and going. It was a very difficult mission. Let's split up, Feng Wu said to the 2 men. Be careful. Once you're done, get back immediately. What about you? Zhue asked Feng Wu. Feng Wu said, I have another mission. After that, Feng Wu ran off. Why had she stepped forward to greet the two men? That was an important part of Feng Wu's plan. Unfortunately, these two men didn't know that and thought Feng Wu was the second prince's subordinate like them. They just thought that Feng Wu had some other task to do. I forgot to ask his name. Zhui felt a little regretful. Meng said, in our line of work, how can there be proper names? Most of us only have code names. We'll know when we go back and ask the captain. Let's get to work now. The main reason they came this time was to take the lead and probe for more information. They would draw a map and submit everything. The second prince would naturally send very capable people to carry out this mission. Meng and Zhui both knew the second prince was trying to destroy this underground fighter jet manufacturing plant and frame the crown prince. This would make His Majesty lose trust in the crown prince. Right now, we have a common interest with the Junwo Empire. Zhui let out a long sigh. Meng stared at him. Don't say that. The second prince will never cooperate with the Junwo Empire. Otherwise, he'll be killed. At the same moment, Feng Wu was rushing towards the inscription section at her fastest speed. The inscription propeller. Feng Wu hadn't forgotten how shabby the magical equipment division was. They couldn't even make an inscription propeller. When she finally got her hands on a propeller, she got halfway through taking notes, when someone made trouble for her, and the inscription propeller was gone again. Feng Wu was at a loss. If she were given some time to study it, she might really be able to build one after a while. Since Dongsang already had completed ones, and her time was so precious, why should she spend it on research? Hence, Feng Wu went straight to the inscription section. She wanted to steal the inscription code. In the dark, Feng Wu moved as fast as a shooting star. When one took a closer look, they would think they were seeing things. Within a few breaths, Feng Wu arrived at the inscription section. However, before she could enter, she heard two people not far away. The two of them were squatting and smoking while chatting. Feng Wu didn't pay much attention at first, but the first thing they said stunned her. 3303 second-generation jet. The two of them were smoking while chatting. Feng Wu didn't pay much attention at first, but the first thing they said stunned her. Are we really going to attack Nest Fortress? Hearing that, Feng Wu slipped and almost fell. Finally, she managed to stabilize herself and didn't hit the wall with a bang. Hiding in a dark corner, Feng Wu wasn't in a hurry to leave. She stared at the two people in front of her. The other person added, from the looks of it, the war really is coming. That's great. We've been working in secret for so long, and we're finally going to shine. The world will know how far-reaching His Royal Highness's plan is. I heard the Junwo Empire can't even make their own fighter jet. Isn't that right? We have at least 100 of them here, right? 100? 300? Oh my God, so many! That's right. We've accumulated so many of them over the years. We'll fly them all into the air together and control the sky. We can dump inscription bombs on Nest. But I feel so good just thinking about it. By the way, were you involved in the bombing of Nest previously? Of course. It's a pity that we only attacked once before stopping. This time, I'll also apply to fly a fighter jet and attack Nest. It'll definitely be very satisfying. Of course, when you fly in the air and drop bombs at will, rumbling flames will soar into the sky. The enemy will be so frightened that they'll scatter in all directions. Countless people will be killed or injured, and buildings will collapse with a bang. Ha! I heard the girls of the Junwo Empire are especially beautiful. I heard that too. We'll snatch these girls and bring them back to become our maids. Feng Wu frowned. She wanted to walk out and grab these two men. With a bang, she would smash their heads together and kill them. But now wasn't the time. Feng Wu gave them a deep look and didn't linger for another second. She still had very important things to do. The inscription section was specially designed to carve inscription propellers. The security was tight, but it wasn't a problem for Feng Wu. Feng Wu caught up with a capable-looking girl when she saw the ladder coming out. A few moments later, the girl reached a secluded area, and Feng Wu knocked her out from behind. After changing into the girl's clothes, Feng Wu swaggered into the inscription room. "Duri, weren't you going to bed? Why are you back?" The inscription area was brightly lit. There were still many people in their seats who were carving inscriptions. Feng Wu cleared her throat. A middle-aged man hurriedly walked over with a concerned expression. "Duri, what's wrong? Are you coughing because the wind outside is too cold? Sit down and have some rest. You don't have to work so hard." After that, the middle-aged man pushed Feng Wu back into the chair and said grumpily, "I know you're in a hurry. You want to carve the upgraded inscription before the war and upgrade the inscription propeller to a second-generation model, but you have to take care of yourself." A second-generation model? Feng Wu was shocked. The Junwo Empire didn't even have a first-generation inscription propeller, but their enemy was already working on a second-generation one. Feng Wu smiled. "It's fine. I have to hurry up." 3304 Hide 1. Feng Wu smiled. "It's fine. I have to hurry up." Only then did the middle-aged man return to his seat worriedly. He was a little unhappy. Why was Duri treating him like an outsider? This middle-aged man's name was Gosai. He was the highest-ranking person in charge of the inscription room. Everyone was in awe of him, but only Duri wasn't like that. Therefore, he and Duri became even closer over time. Although he had a family, his ferocious wife wasn't as sensible as Duri. Hence, Gosai liked being with Duri even more. However, their relationship couldn't be made public, so they were only dating in private. What Gosai didn't know was that Duri was only using him. Her real target wasn't the highest-ranking officer of the inscription area. Under Feng Wu's control, Duri said everything she needed to say, but she didn't tell Feng Wu about her relationship with Gosai. She only said the officer was nice to her and left it at that. Feng Wu didn't pay much attention to it. Besides, how would she know the two people were having an affair? However, Gosai's concern for her made Feng Wu suspicious. Sitting at her desk, Feng Wu pretended to be busy with her work, but she was looking around. It was already just before dawn. The sky was only just about to get bright, and not many people were still awake. There was only her, Gosai, and two other people. The other three were very busy and kept looking at the data. They wouldn't be able to finish anytime soon. In that case, Feng Wu decided to steal the information about the first-generation inscription propeller first. Hence, Feng Wu turned on the big screen in front of her. Soon, lines of inscriptions and codes appeared before her eyes. Feng Wu had an unparalleled memory, but that there were so many inscriptions and formations that a normal person might not be able to memorize them in a year. It wasn't impossible for Feng Wu to memorize them all at once. She could do it, but it would mentally exhaust her. There was no need for that. Using the spiritual fossil stone, Feng Wu took pictures of the inscription codes to decipher later. After recording the first-generation inscriptions, Feng Wu saw the last line. Compared with the second-generation jet fighter, the first-generation propeller fighter is simply trash. The Junwo Empire doesn't even have trash. What a joke! Feng Wu frowned. What did Duri have against the Junwo Empire? Why was she scolding the Empire even here? She opened the inscription code for the second-generation jet fighter. At the top of the code, Duri wrote, "For the second-generation jet fighter, the fuselage has to be made of metal. We'll write a line on the fuselage. We won't return home until the Junwo Empire is destroyed." Feng Wu's stomach lurched. We won't return home until the Junwo Empire is destroyed. They wouldn't return home until they destroyed the Junwo Empire. Duri really hated the Junwo Empire. Feng Wu smirked inwardly. Since you hate the Junwo Empire so much, I won't worry about stealing your inscription code. Feng Wu flipped through the pages on Duri's big screen and took pictures. It didn't take long for Feng Wu to get everything she could. After Gosai finished discussing things with his disciples, he was about to turn to Duri when he saw her stand up. "What's wrong? You don't look well. Your voice is a little hoarse too." After that, Gosai put his hands on Feng Wu's shoulders. Feng Wu frowned and wanted to slap him, but 3305 hide 2. In the end, she pushed him away and nodded at him. I have a headache. I'll take a break. Gosai said, I'll walk with you. Just then, someone shouted from not far away, Master Gosai! Master Gosai! Feng Wu said in a serious tone, you can focus on your work here. We'll be dealing with the Junwo Empire soon. You know what I mean. Gosai said, Duri, don't worry. Your parents were killed by Feng Xiangnan. Nest Fortress will be destroyed soon, and you'll have your revenge. Feng Wu nodded and urged him, go now. Gosai looked at Feng Wu reluctantly. Be careful. Feng Wu nodded. Gosai tried to squeeze Feng Wu's hands again, but Feng Wu cleverly avoided his hands. Gosai thought his beloved girl was getting impatient. He lowered his voice and said to Duri, that shrew has been taking slow-acting poison for so long and is about to die. Just wait. Feng Wu was speechless. She understood everything now. Gosai and Duri were worse than animals. Instinctively, Feng Wu's breathing got a little heavier, and Gosai could feel it. Thinking that his beloved girl was happy, he couldn't hide the smile on his face. Just be patient and wait. Everything will get better. Gosai left quickly because his colleagues were still calling for him. Meanwhile, Feng Wu stared at Gosai and secretly shook her head. There were too many inscription materials in this place. If this place was destroyed, then Feng Wu saw that no one was paying attention to her. She smiled a little. She placed the inscription bombs which she had stolen from the East Wing in every corner according to the formation. The bombs were hidden well, and it was very difficult to spot them. It was said an inscription bomb the size of a fist could blow up a house. Now that Feng Wu had buried a quarter of the bombs which she had, it would be able to cause a huge explosion. However, she couldn't bomb the place for the time being because she had more important things to do. Feng Wu left the inscription section and headed straight for the fighter jet area. On the way, she passed by a secret spot and crouched down to look at Duri, whom she had knocked out earlier. She hadn't intended to kill Duri before. Since she now knew Duri's true nature, she wasn't going to let the latter live. Duri seemed to sense something and woke up. She was infuriated to see Feng Wu because she saw a face that was almost identical to hers. You're pretending to be me? Duri gritted her teeth and glared at Feng Wu. To be fair, Duri was quite beautiful. She had fair skin, beautiful legs, a slender figure, and a clear voice. She had always been proud of her appearance and had used her beauty to obtain many benefits. Feng Wu looked at her and sighed. You shouldn't have lied to me. I didn't. You've discovered my relationship with Gosai? Duri was very smart and instantly realized what had happened. Since she knew, Duri was about to scream when Feng Wu grabbed her by the throat. Don't you know I've already set up a sound barrier around here? Feng Wu said grumpily. Duri was very well versed in inscription machines, but she was much weaker in other aspects. Feng Wu could easily kill her. As long as you let me go, I'll work for you. Duri gritted her teeth. 3306 hide 3. You work for the second prince, right? I'll work for you. I'll give you the inscription codes of the second-generation jet. Feng Wu said, so sorry, but I found those myself. Duri said, I'm still useful. Feng Wu said, by the way, I'm sorry, but I'm not with the second prince. Feng Wu whispered something in Duri's ear. Duri glared at Feng Wu. Without another word, Feng Wu twisted Duri's neck and broke it. Poor Duri. She had written so many codes to destroy the Junwo Empire, but this person was actually from the Junwo Empire. Feng Wu didn't make any unnecessary moves. She disguised Duri so that it would seem like the latter had been killed by the second prince's people, while she quickly walked to the aircraft assembly area. In the assembly area, there were boxes arranged in neat rows. In each big box was an inscription propeller. It was very difficult to make an inscription propeller. Even a team of great inscription masters might not be able to make one in a month. The hundreds of inscription propellers in front of her were so precious. Master Dury. It was late at night, and there was only a little old man on duty. He had been dozing until he saw Dury come over. He immediately woke up. Dury was an authoritative figure here. Feng Wu put on an aloof face and gave the old man a cold look. There's something wrong with the inscriptions. I'll check them. Don't mind me. The little old man had wanted to follow her in, but he remembered everything inside was confidential, so. Then these boxes. Feng Wu glanced at him. Since you're free, open all the boxes. I'll check them. Yes, of course. Dury was usually much colder, so what the little old man saw now was a milder version of her. The real Dury was rarely in a good mood. These inscription propellers were to be assembled after dawn, so they weren't tightly sealed. Seeing that the old man was about to open the entire box, Feng Wu shook her head. No need. Just open the top. The little old man quickly did as he was told. Soon, more than 100 boxes were opened. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was already examining them. She really checked the inscription propellers one by one, holding a magnifying glass in her hand. Her expression was serious and meticulous. Do. Feng Wu was infuriated when the old man spoke. You're disturbing me. Her tone was very impatient. The little old man didn't dare make another sound. Everyone knew about the affair between Gosai and Dury. Dury was the most powerful inscription master here, while the little old man was just a gatekeeper. How could he dare offend her? Go stand guard outside and don't disturb me. Feng Wu snapped at him. I'll go out immediately. I'll go out immediately. The little old man ran very quickly. Seeing the old man run away, Feng Wu smiled a little. Actually, her heart had been racing since she got here. There were experts everywhere. If she revealed even the slightest flaw, she would be killed on the spot. Therefore, every second was filled with fear, tension, and excitement. It was a matter of life and death. Feng Wu didn't want to let go of such a good opportunity. There were 100 inscription propellers here. How could she bear to give up on them? Hence, after the old man left, Feng Wu put the 100 inscription propellers into her storage space one by one. Fortunately, she had moved out a batch of inscription bombs, making some extra space. 3307 Hide 4. Fortunately, she had moved out a batch of inscription bombs, making some extra space. However, Feng Wu felt a little sorry. After fitting the hundreds of inscription propellers inside, the storage bag that Jun Linyuan had given her was full. It was so full that not even a straw could fit inside. Feng Wu didn't stay any longer. Because it was dangerous to stay any longer, she walked straight out. The old man at the door greeted Feng Wu respectfully when he saw her. Master Dury, are you leaving? Feng Wu nodded and left without looking back. Dury was always so arrogant, so the little old man didn't pay much attention and dozed off again. Where was Feng Wu going next? She had one last place to go, and that was where the fighter jets were parked. Feng Wu had heard that there were already 200 fighter jets there, so she had to take care of the fighter jets first. Otherwise, if they really launched an air attack on Nest Fortress, Nest would really be in big trouble. Feng Wu had already found out where the fighter jet hangar was. She was about to do the same trick to get in, when she heard a voice outside. Assassin! Assassin! Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Why did it have to be now? Just then, Feng Wu saw countless torches coming her way. 2 men were running at the front. Weren't they Meng and Jue? Their faces were covered with black scarves, but Feng Wu could tell from their body shapes. These 2 people had ruined her plans. Feng Wu was displeased. Moreover, she clearly saw that Jue, who was running behind, had been shot several times in the legs and was slowing down. I'll cover you. Go. Jue lowered his voice and said to Meng. As he spoke, he handed a jade bracelet to Meng. There was reluctance in Meng's eyes, but he still nodded solemnly in the end. After saying this, Jue turned around and headed toward the enemy. Jue had tied explosives around himself, so he rushed into the crowd without caring about his life. Boom! Jue died bravely. At this moment, Meng was caught by Feng Wu around the corner. You. Meng's face turned pale, but Feng Wu lowered her voice. Meng, it's me. The familiar voice and familiar form of address. Meng immediately recognized Feng Wu. This was the masked accomplice from before. Meng asked anxiously, how can you walk around out in the open? Feng Wu said, I can play different roles. I'm Dury now. As they spoke, someone walked over. Feng Wu shoved Meng into the shadows. The person said seriously, Master Dury, it's dangerous here. Please go back now. Feng Wu said seriously, all right, I'll be back at the inscription office. By the way, what's going on? The speaker was a guard captain, who was at least a level 9 spiritual lord. Flying fighter jets were too important, so this place was guarded by very powerful people to ensure nothing went wrong. Someone is here to cause trouble. The captain frowned. Don't ask too much. Be careful. I'll walk you back now. Feng Wu waved him off. That's fine. Go on. I won't keep you any longer. All of a sudden, Feng Wu stopped in her tracks and asked, who's causing all this trouble? Is it someone from the Junwo Empire? 3308 Hide 5. The captain said, the people from the Junwo Empire can't enter the Dongsang Kingdom. We would discover them as soon as they appear since they would have the strong aura of the Junwo Empire on them, but not the grass aura of the Dongsang Kingdom. It's either the second or the third prince again. Who else could it be? The captain didn't dare to say anything else and quickly left. After he left, Meng, who was hiding in a corner, looked at Feng Wu in surprise. You, Master Dury? Meng was a little uncertain. Was this person the second prince's subordinate or someone from this base? Feng Wu pointed at a secluded corner and asked Meng to take a look for himself. Seeing the slender figure lying by the wall, Meng turned her over. He looked from her face to Feng Wu's. Meng was speechless. These two faces were exactly the same. In other words, the second prince had really recruited a talented person. She could actually disguise herself as someone else and hide here. Overjoyed, Meng lowered his voice and told Feng Wu, that's great. That's brilliant. Feng Wu snapped, no, it's not. I was just about to go to the fighter jet hangar when you made such a big fuss. By the way, didn't you come here to scout things out? Why are you making so much noise? Feng Wu had planned to trick them at the critical moment and expose them as the second prince's men so that the crown prince and the second prince would get into a dogfight. However, she didn't expect Meng and Zhui to disappoint her. I really couldn't help it. Meng couldn't hide his agitation. The person guarding the fighter jet hangar over there happened to be taking a nap, so we slipped in. Then we saw rows of fighter jets. Feng Wu asked, are there a lot? Meng said, there are at least 200 of them. How could we return empty-handed after entering a treasure cave? We couldn't control ourselves at all. Feng Wu stared at him in disbelief. Meng said proudly, so, Zhui and I put the fighter jets into the storage space. When we had about 100 of them, we were discovered and we ran away. Look, they're all in here. Meng pointed at the jade bracelet and showed it to Feng Wu. Feng Wu's eyes lit up, but she forced herself to stay calm. Feng Wu glared at Meng. The captain only asked you to draw a map. If he finds out what you've done, he'll kill you. Meng thought of Zhui's fate and said, I've touched so many fighter jets. I don't care if I die now. Feng Wu was speechless. She thought for a moment before she said, they're already here, so they'll definitely do a thorough investigation. You won't be able to escape. How about this? Take me as a hostage. The person I'm playing is of a high rank. If you kidnap me, they'll definitely make way for you. While talking to Meng, Feng Wu looked at the team not far away. The entire team had already gathered, and the entire road was surrounded. Not even a fly could sneak out. Feng Wu was a little anxious. The situation was getting tenser and tenser. Meng took a deep breath and said, I can't run away. Actually, from the moment we started collecting the fighter jets, we knew we couldn't escape. The fighter jets are such an important treasure. How can they not take precautions? They'll definitely catch us. 3309 Hide 6. I only want to say one thing. It felt awesome. Meng was overwhelmed with emotion. I'm willing to die immediately. Feng Wu was about to say something when Meng waved her off. I know what you're trying to say. You want to turn me into someone else so that I can avoid this search, don't you? No, I'll drag you down with me. Meng smiled bitterly. You can act so well that no one can tell, not even from your voice, but I can't. I can blow my cover at any time. If I'm exposed, then you're basically doomed, so. Meng handed the bracelet to Feng Wu. Take this. Since you've been hiding among them, you better hide well. Find a chance to get out and give the bracelet to the second prince. Feng Wu put on a show and declined. That won't do. I won't allow it. How can I take credit for that? Meng was very generous. I can't get out, but you can. By the way, don't forget to tell the second prince what Jue and I did. After that, Meng pushed Feng Wu away. Get out of here. Feng Wu admired Meng's character, but they were on different sides. She nodded at him and dashed off with the bracelet. Here, over here. Meng's voice was followed by a series of explosions. Feng Wu was filled with emotion. She turned around and saw Meng exploding amidst the flames. He had probably stayed there on purpose to blow up Duri's body. Sure enough, when Feng Wu rushed up with the others, she saw Meng holding Duri's body in his arms. The two of them had been blown to pieces. Seeing this, Feng Wu felt a little dizzy. Duri? Duri! A nervous, concerned voice rang out behind Feng Wu. Gosai! He reached out to catch Feng Wu, but Feng Wu turned away. Gosai glared at her in exasperation. Duri, why are you throwing a tantrum? Feng Wu just didn't want him to touch her, but she couldn't arouse his suspicion. Hence, Feng Wu glared at him. We're in public. Watch yourself. Gosai was thrilled. He wasn't angry anymore after being scolded by Feng Wu. Instead, he smiled. I'm just worried about you. By the way, were you all right just now? Feng Wu waved him off. I'm fine. I just ran into a lunatic and was almost taken hostage. Luckily, I ran away fast enough. Gosai said to Feng Wu, Get inside. I'm going to check out what's going on. At that moment, someone was already calling for Gosai. He reminded Feng Wu, other places may be dangerous, but our inscription room is safe since Mr. Sakiya set up the formation himself. Feng Wu nodded and saw a group of people rushing toward them along the road. She raised an eyebrow. Mr. Sakiya is here. Gosai immediately relaxed. That's right. Mr. Sakiya is here. I'll go look for him. Go back now. Feng Wu nodded. As she walked back, she heard Mr. Sakiya's command behind her. Not even a fly is allowed to leave here. It seemed she would have to stay in the underground manufacturing plant for a few days as Duri. Feng Wu tried to recall if she had given herself away. Suddenly, her pupils contracted. She almost forgot. She really had given herself away a little. 3310 Explosion 1. She almost forgot. She really had given herself away a little. Previously, when she was in the assembly department, she had gone in with Duri's face. That old man. Feng Wu hurried toward the assembly department. The old man was about to say something when he saw Feng Wu. But that was it. Feng Wu cleared out another 25% of the inscription bombs in her space. Boom! After Feng Wu left, the assembly room burst into flames. Originally, everyone's attention was on the fighter jet hangar. However, they were alarmed by this noise and immediately rushed over. Feng Wu had already run away. She could clearly see Mr. Sakiya at the front. Her impression of Mr. Sakiya was that he was a calm and composed cultivator, but now he couldn't remain calm at all. His face had turned several shades paler. Boom! Mr. Sakiya. The highest authority in the base was Gosai's father, Goi. He had been sleeping, but because he was in a hurry, he ran out in his undergarments and only had one boot on. The other one was nowhere to be found. Sakiya stared intently at Goi with cold eyes. Goi felt as if the glare would kill him. He panicked. Actually, he hadn't stayed in the underground base tonight. It was dark and humid here, so he would run topside from time to time. This time, he had been sleeping soundly in the courtyard above ground, when the series of explosions woke him up. The assembly department. I remember there are inscription propellers there. Goi's expression was extremely ugly. At that moment, the department head in charge of the assembly department rushed over. Upon seeing Goi and Mr. Sakiya, his face turned terrified and pale. He couldn't even stand straight and dropped to the ground. Goi asked anxiously, "The assembly? How many inscription propellers were there?" The head of the assembly department said, 100. They were just shipped in not long ago. Someone had already rushed in despite the flames. However, the explosion had been too intense. They couldn't even stand close, so how could they salvage anything? Those were inscription bombs. Mr. Sakiya's face was terrifyingly pale. He clutched his chest and had the urge to vomit blood. The inscription bombs were strictly controlled and in the hands of those in power like himself. No one could come into contact with them or mobilize them. However, the explosion had started in the assembly area. Who did it? Goi was so angry that his eyes turned red. No one answered. There are 100 inscription propellers in the assembly warehouse. Have they all been blown up? No one answered him. Goi turned around and saw two people kneeling on the ground. One was the head of the assembly department. It was normal for him to kneel because the assembly department was blown up like this, but the other person was the head of the aviation department. Why was he kneeling? Seeing Goi's questioning gaze, the head of the aviation department burst into tears. "Sir, half of the 200 fighter jets have been stolen." Goi spat out a mouthful of blood. 100 fighter jets had been stolen. The head of the aviation department said, "Sir, all 200 could have been stolen. Fortunately, we quickly discovered the theft and stopped it in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." Goi almost died of anger. The man still wanted to take credit at a time like this. "You're only still alive because I'm being lenient. Mr. Sakiya?" At that moment Mr. Sakiya was frowning. The assembly department and the aviation department. Were they the only departments that the enemy was after? Shit! Mr. Sakiya was alarmed. He pushed through the crowd and rushed toward the inscription department. 3311 Explosion 2. However, at that moment, boom. There was the sound of a big explosion in the inscription area. Goi and the two other ministers' legs went weak. The inscription area. That was the inscription area. They thought they were going to lose their minds. Mr. Sakiya rushed toward the inscription area, followed by the others. Only one person in the crowd was moving swiftly in the opposite direction. It was Feng Wu. Feng Wu knew how important the inscription area was. As long as the inscription area was around, they could create inscription propellers and assemble them for the fighter jets. But now, the inscription area was destroyed. All the inscription masters were dead. Gosai was also dead. Although they could still transfer new inscription masters here from the Dongsang Kingdom, forming a new inscription team and resuming normal production would be extremely difficult. Feng Wu spotted Zhu in the crowd, so she quickly disguised herself as Bu Jingyu again. Then, she rushed over and grabbed him by the sleeve. "Senior brother Zhu, senior brother Zhu." Zhu Yi turned around and was surprised to see his junior brother. "Why are you here?" Feng Wu said, "I was scared when I heard the explosion. Then I saw someone coming this way, so I followed them. I didn't know there was such a serious explosion here." She looked like she was still in a state of shock. Zhu Yi turned around and glared at the captain of the guards. Even his little junior brother could follow them in. These guards were terrible at keeping secrets. "Senior brother Zhu, Why is this place? Senior brother Zhu looked away and said to Feng Wu, "It's a mess here. Get out." Feng Wu hesitated. "But?" Zhu Yi said, "Out?" Feng Wu had no choice but to feign frustration and kick at the pebbles under her feet. "Okay." She lowered his head and walked out silently. She couldn't take the way out through Mr. Sakiya's courtyard. Because the fighter jets used another exit, Feng Wu left from there and walked slowly back to the great general's residence. Bu Jingyu was extremely anxious. However, he didn't dare go out. One Bu Jingyu was already walking around. If he went out, what if he was exposed? However, such a huge commotion gave him a strange feeling. He felt that Feng Wu had something to do with it. Feng Wu wasn't dead, was she? Bu Jingyu was worried. It would be great if she died. I won't have to worry about her causing me any trouble. But she's so stunning. Wouldn't it be a pity for her to die like this? Sigh, why don't I go out and take a look? Bu Jingyu's mind was in turmoil when he saw a person slowly walking toward him. The person pushed open the courtyard door, came in, and entered the room. What? Bu Jingyu was about to leave when Feng Wu came in, so they almost bumped into each other. You're not dead. Bu Jingyu recognized Feng Wu right away when he saw someone who looked exactly like him. However, it was quite strange to see someone who looked identical to him and even of the same height. Feng Wu gave him a confused look. Dead? That doesn't apply to me. How arrogant. Bu Jingyu almost choked on his spit. It's such a big commotion outside. Are you really fine? I was lying on the roof just now and saw that the shops on East Street had all collapsed. Was there an earthquake? 3312 Explosion 3. Feng Wu had been in a state of high tension the whole night. When she finally got back to the courtyard, she simply lay down, put her hands in her pockets, and took a break to recover her energy. By then, Bu Jingyu was already by her side. He could tell from Feng Wu's words that she knew what had happened. Seeing how exhausted Feng Wu looked, Bu Jingyu poured her some tea. Feng Wu finished it in one go. Bu Jingyu fetched a plate of fruit and placed it right next to Feng Wu's hand. As for himself, he brought a stool over, sat down, and massaged Feng Wu's legs. Tell me. Please tell me. Bu Jingyu was extremely curious. Seeing how eager Bu Jingyu was to hear about it, Feng Wu teased him. It's nothing. I just blew up the underground fighter jet base. Bu Jingyu choked on his spit. Onji. 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 You blew up the underground fighter jet base? You must be joking. Feng Wu looked very serious. No, I'm not. Bu Jingyu was stunned. If anyone else had said that, he would have slapped them and told them to stop bragging. But Feng Wu, even his own teacher had been tricked. Bu Jingyu said, Did you blow it up with this face? Feng Wu asked, Are you scared? Bu Jingyu almost burst into tears. Oh my God! Please don't tell me you looked like this when you blew up the base. Seeing how anxious Bu Jingyu was, Feng Wu smiled. No. Only then did Bu Jingyu heave a sigh of relief. He clutched his chest. That's good. I was scared to death. Feng Wu said, But don't you hate me for blowing up your base? Bu Jingyu said, The fighter jet base isn't mine. Why should I hate you? But why are you so powerful? You can even blow up fighter jets. Which part of the base did you blow up? How many fighter jets were there? Feng Wu looked at Bu Jingyu and smiled without saying anything. Bu Jingyu asked, 1? 2? 10? Bu Jingyu asked, Don't tell me you blew up 10 fighter jets. Feng Wu said, How can there be so few? I blew up everything I could, your inscription department, assembly department, and aviation department. Thump. Bu Jingyu dropped to the ground and knelt down in front of Feng Wu. Did you really blow them all up? Feng Wu said, Yup. However, Bu Jingyu didn't completely believe her since he didn't think it was really possible. How could one person do such a thing? Since it was a fighter jet base, there had to be a lot of people guarding it. Besides, where did Feng Wu get the inscription bombs? Bu Jingyu tried to comfort himself. However, such news couldn't stay hidden. After all, a large area of East Street had collapsed. It was an unfortunate event. The entire fighter jet base was below the street. How could the houses above withstand the explosion? Feng Wu wasn't going to say anything more to Bu Jingyu. If the kid accidentally let out the secret, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although tonight's events had exceeded Feng Wu's expectations, she still had no idea how to complete her biggest mission. The immortal spiritual fruit. It would ripen in another day. Where had Mr. Sakiya hidden it? Feng Wu suddenly stood up. Boss, where are you going? Bu Jingyu had already gotten used to calling her boss. 3313 Where is the immortal spiritual fruit? 1. Bu Jingyu had already gotten used to calling her boss. Feng Wu looked back at him. I'm going out for a walk. After that, Feng Wu left. Bu Jingyu was panicking. Go out for a walk? Last night, you also said you wanted to go out for a walk. In the end, you caused such a huge commotion. Why do you want to go out now? Bu Jingyu had every reason to panic. When Feng Wu left the yard, Bu Jingyu could only look at her pitifully from the top of the wall. Feng Wu turned around and glared at him. Go back inside. How scary. Bu Jingyu could only hide back in the courtyard. Crossing her hands behind her back, Feng Wu walked around the mansion. Because she was wearing Bu Jingyu's face, Feng Wu could show up openly without worrying someone would find out she was a spy. Thanks to the second prince, she now had 100 intact fighter jets and 100 inscription propellers. However, there weren't many inscription bombs left. There were only half of them left. Looking around the mansion, Feng Wu rubbed her chin. If this place was blown up. Bu Jingyu, what are you thinking about? Just as Feng Wu was smiling, she heard a voice behind her. It was a very familiar voice. Feng Wu turned around and saw Mu Yen. She didn't know how close Bu Jingyu and Mu Yen were right now, so she couldn't show too much enthusiasm, nor show too little. Hence, she only nodded. Mu Yen seemed to be very familiar with Bu Jingyu. She asked him, Do you know? Feng Wu asked, Know what? Mu Yen pointed to the east. East Street is completely destroyed. Feng Wu said, I see. Mu Yen said, Did you know there was a base that was manufacturing fighter jets? Feng Wu asked, How do you know? Mu Yen said smugly, I didn't know at first, but it's such a huge commotion that it's hard not to notice. She couldn't wait for Feng Wu to ask her for details, but Feng Wu remained silent. Seeing that Feng Wu wasn't going to ask, Mu Yen said, Guess what? All of our fighter jets were blown up. So many inscription masters were killed. His Majesty has suffered the greatest loss since he ascended the throne. If this matter is reported, His Majesty will punish Mr. Sakiya for dereliction of duty. We've lost so many inscription masters, and they were all the most elite ones. Someone is in deep trouble. Did you know that we were all gathered to launch an all-out attack on Nest? All these years, we never made a move, but we secretly created so many fighter jets to take down Nest in one fell swoop. But that was what happened. Mu Yen was furious. Damn it. I could have seen how Feng Wu died. Feng Wu was surprised to hear her name here. Do you really want her to die that badly? She asked grumpily. Mu Yen replied, Of course. Feng Wu asked, What did she do to you? Mu Yan's face twisted. Her existence is a mistake. She shouldn't exist in this world. Feng Wu said, You're just jealous of her looks, aren't you? Mu Yan, no. What do her good looks have to do with me? Why would I be jealous of her? Feng Wu looked into the distance. Mu Yan probably felt she had overreacted. 3314 Where is the immortal spiritual fruit? 2. Mu Yan probably felt a little guilty too. She glared at Feng Wu. You stupid kid. What do you know? Feng Wu stood up. Alright. I don't understand anything. I'm leaving. Mu Yen glared at Feng Wu. Stop right there. Feng Wu looked back at her. What? Mu Yen said, "My master is so busy, the crown prince is in a coma, and your master is so unlucky. No one is talking to me. Won't you talk to me?" Feng Wu suddenly had an idea. She asked involuntarily, "What's your master busy with?" Mu Yen finally found an outlet to vent her anger. She complained loudly, "Of course, my master is busy saving the crown prince. Tell me, why is Jun Linyuan awake? Why isn't the crown prince awake? I've been thinking about it." Feng Wu asked, "Thinking about what?" Mu Yen said, "I'm thinking about why Jun Linyuan is awake. Logically speaking, only the immortal spiritual fruit can wake someone up. We lost the immortal spiritual fruit, and Jun Linyuan woke up. What do you think?" Feng Wu said, "But..." Mu Yen said, "No buts. The more I think about it, the more I feel that someone from the Junwu Empire must have stolen it." Feng Wu looked at Mu Yen as if the latter was a retard. "Didn't you steal it?" Mu Yen said, "Of course not. Actually, there's something I haven't told Mr. Sakia. I'm not sure if I should tell him or not." Feng Wu's stomach lurched. It couldn't be what she thought, could it? As expected. Mu Yen looked at Feng Wu and said in all seriousness, "Actually, when I was refining the immortal spiritual fruit last time, I sensed someone come in. The person knocked me out while I was opening the cauldron and stole the immortal spiritual fruit liquid." Feng Wu looked at Mu Yen calmly. When she was opening the cauldron, did she forget how she had almost destroyed the immortal spiritual fruit? Feng Wu looked at her indifferently. "Are you sure? Should we go to my master now?" After that, Feng Wu dragged Mu Yen to the door. "Don't." Mu Yen didn't dare provoke Mr. Sakia at that moment. "I've been trying to find an opportunity to tell Mr. Sakia, but I kept stalling. Then, there was such a huge explosion. Mu Yen crouched down on the ground. He let me off on account of my master. How would I dare go see him now?" Feng Wu asked, "Are you going to tell him or not?" Mu Yen crouched down on the ground and shook her head. I won't say it." Feng Wu asked, "Then why are you telling me?" Mu Yen said, "I'm just feeling suffocated. I need someone to talk to. Bu Jingyu, why are you so mean?" Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She was getting a little carried away. Feng Wu asked, "So, what do you want to talk about?" Mu Yen said, "I can't get over it." Feng Wu said, "So?" Mu Yen said, "The moment I start refining, I remember that incident. I can't concentrate on refining at all. I'm adrift. After that incident, I haven't succeeded in refining any supreme level elixirs." Feng Wu said, "But..." Mu Yen said, "Guess what? I even suspect that the person who stole my immortal spiritual fruit is Feng Wu." Feng Wu said, "Don't spout nonsense if you don't have any evidence." Mu Yen said, "It's precisely because I don't have any evidence that I don't dare tell Mr. Sakia. Now that Mr. Sakia is busy with the fighter jet base, he's entrusted the second immortal spiritual fruit to my master." Feng Wu was astonished. That was right. 3,315 seconds. Senior brother. Feng Wu looked at Mu Yen in astonishment. Why didn't she think of this before? She had specifically targeted Mr. Sakia, but he was too cunning. He didn't check the immortal spiritual fruit at all. That was how calm he was. Therefore, no matter how closely Feng Wu watched him, she couldn't steal the fruit from Mr. Sakia. But Mr. Sakia wasn't a medicine refiner, so he had no way of refining the immortal spiritual fruit. Therefore, the immortal spiritual fruit would eventually end up in someone else's hands. Others wouldn't be as meticulous and flawless as Mr. Sakia. For example, she couldn't find any flaws with Mr. Sakia last time, so she turned to Mu Yen instead. This time, Feng Wu's new target was Mu Yan's master, Mo Lan. "Why are you so happy?" Mu Yen gave Feng Wu a strange look. Feng Wu said, "I think you're too idle. It's good to be busy." Mu Yen sneered. She ignored Feng Wu and left. Feng Wu was about to go look for Mo Lan when someone hurried toward her. Bu Jingyu? Why are you here? Come with me. The tall and thin man was in his 20s and had deep-set eyes. Recalling what Bu Jingyu had told her before, Feng Wu blurted out, "Second senior brother." Bu Jingyu's second senior brother glared at Feng Wu. "What time is it now? Why are you still wandering around outside? Come with me." Grabbed Feng Wu and dragged her away. Feng Wu wanted to say no, but second senior brother grabbed her by the back of her collar and didn't give her a chance to resist. With Feng Wu's strength, she could easily defeat Bu Jingyu's second senior brother, but the real Bu Jingyu couldn't. That was why Feng Wu couldn't use her full strength and had to be taken away by that man. Feng Wu was frustrated. She had wanted to walk around the mansion and see where she could find the inscription bombs. She had used around 1/3 of the ones she had stolen previously, and she was still mourning her loss. "Second senior brother, why are you looking for me? I have to memorize inscriptions. Master told me to," Feng Wu grumbled. Glanced at her angrily. "What level of inscriptions are you memorizing now?" Feng Wu said proudly, "Level 5. Said, "Huh." Feng Wu said, "Second senior brother, aren't you being too harsh?" Without even looking at Feng Wu, second senior brother said, "Since you have nothing better to do, give me a hand." Feng Wu remembered Bu Jingyu telling her that second senior brother was in charge of construction work in Sun Castle. He was responsible for everything from the walls to the tunnels. He had probably built the fighter jet base as well. Feng Wu said, "Second senior brother, if I'm supervising your work, where are you going?" Didn't look too happy. "There's a problem with the fighter jet base. That goddamn second prince. I'm going to kill him." Seeing Bu Jingyu look at him with big, clear eyes, second senior brother felt his stomach lurch. He cleared his throat. "Don't worry about it. When you're done, you're free to go." After that, he handed Feng Wu over to his deputy and promptly left. The deputy smiled when he saw Feng Wu. "Young Master Bu, shall I show you around?" Feng Wu had no choice but to accept the fact that she had become the supervisor. She could only hope second senior brother would come back as soon as possible. If he didn't come back tomorrow, Feng Wu would run away herself. 3316 The Second Prince. They were now outside the walls of Sun Castle. The castle wall was 3 kilometers away. They were on the only road leading to the castle. Feng Wu asked involuntarily, "What are you working on now?" The deputy told Feng Wu in all seriousness, "Burying inscription bombs." Feng Wu was speechless. Seeing the confused look on Feng Wu's face, the deputy said seriously, "We'll plant the inscription bombs here and along this road. When the Junwo Empire comes after us, we'll be able to detonate the bombs." Feng Wu asked, "Why will the Junwo Empire come here?" The deputy looked at Feng Wu as if she was dumb. "If they don't come after us, we'll create an opportunity for them to come after us. It won't be difficult." Feng Wu was speechless. Hence, Feng Wu saw baskets of inscription bombs. From afar, she could tell that there were at least tens of thousands of them, and there were more to come. They were burying all the inscription bombs here to blow up the people of the Junwo Empire. Feng Wu nodded with a straight face. The deputy showed the blueprint to Feng Wu. "Do you think anything here needs to be edited?" In fact, the deputy knew Bu Jingyu's strength. He knew Bu Jingyu didn't even know level 5 inscriptions, so it was useless to ask him. He probably couldn't even understand the blueprint. However, Bu Jingyu was Mr. Sakiya's disciple. With him as the supervisor, they would have one more person to take responsibility. Seeing the look in the deputy's eyes, Feng Wu knew what he was thinking. It seemed second senior brother didn't treat Bu Jingyu as well as Zhu Yi did. Poor kid. Crossing her arms, Feng Wu said calmly, "I'm just supervising on second senior brother's behalf. I'll do whatever the blueprint says. If anything happens, it has nothing to do with me." After that, Feng Wu found a tree branch and went to sleep on it. The deputy didn't get what he wanted, but Bu Jingyu was there, and that was enough. Seeing that Feng Wu was snoring, the deputy went to do his own thing. Of course, Feng Wu wasn't sleeping. When the deputy showed her the blueprint just now, She had already secretly made a copy of the area where they had buried the inscription bombs. The blueprint was very big. It extended from the outside of Sun Castle to the Dalus Woods and the border. The area was filled with bombs. If the troops of the Junwa Empire stepped on them, they would be blown to pieces. It was a good thing she had seen this blueprint. Otherwise, the cultivators of the Junwa Empire would be in big trouble. Feng Wu was still trying to figure out how to deal with the inscription bombs, while someone in one of the restaurants in Sun Castle was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. The entire fighter base was blown up. The second prince of the Dongsang Kingdom was a handsome man, although he wasn't as good-looking as Night Owl. He was so angry that he smashed the bowl in his hand. What did Zhui and Meng do? Why did they blow up the base? Why did they make such a big fuss? The second prince was so angry that he threw a bowl at the leader of the assassination team who was kneeling on the ground. The leader of the assassination team had a bitter expression on his face. How was he supposed to know those two were so capable? I don't know what information they leaked. If the others find out who they were, the second prince hesitated. They would have done me a great service if they weren't exposed. But will kill their entire families if they were exposed, the second prince said angrily. Just then, someone entered the room. My lord, there's news from inside. They suspect you sent someone to blow up the fighter jet base. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.